Sorry. All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the closed session of the Hermosa Beach School Board for October 9th, 2019. Calling to order the closed session. Michelle, will you please take the roll?
Yes. Maggie Bovilla-Monica.
Present.
Jen Cole.
Present.
Doug Gardner.
Here.
Stephen McCall.
Yep.
Barbara Zonderos.
Present.
All present.
Thank you. Next, we will have oral communications from the audience to the board. Unless Nancy or our notary have any, the room is empty, so I'll take that as a no. And we will adjourn to closed session. Thank you. All right. Welcome, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Hermosa Beach City School District School Board for October 9th, 2019. There are two items to report out of closed session. The first is that the board reviewed and discussed the settlement agreement related to case OAH number 2019-050201 and 2019-070978 consolidated. There was a motion by Barb to approve said settlement agreement, which was seconded by Maggie. It was voted on by the board, 5 yeses and 0 noes. The second item is that the item related to case number 2019-06-0174 was pulled from the closed session agenda. So with that, I will call this regular meeting to order. Michelle, will you please take the roll?
Maggie Bovilla-Monica. Present. Jennifer Cole.
Present.
Doug Gardner.
Present.
Stephen McCall.
Present.
Barbara Zonderos.
Present.
All present.
Thank you, Michelle. Would everyone please rise and join us for the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll now move on to approval of tonight's agenda. Superintendent?
Thank you very much. President Gardner, if you will consider pulling from consent the contract B40-1920, which is contract home to school transportation. The contract did not arrive in time, so we'll put that on next month's agenda. And also with R0919/20, which is the options on relocation of grade level classes from Hermosa View School Construction Project and establishment of the recommended bell schedule. The bell schedule piece of that is not going to take place tonight. The rest of it will.
Okay, thank you. Is there approval of tonight's agenda with those two changes?
I approve. Make a motion.
Yeah.
Do something.
Make a motion.
Make a motion. To approve.
To approve. All right. Thank you, Stephen. Second?
I second.
Thank you, Jen. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. We will now move on to announcements. Superintendent.
Thank you. Well, I really want to welcome, we have students here with us this evening. And first I want to kick it off by saying to them how much I really loved and appreciated the card that I got from Lily and the startership class, and they all signed it. And it's nice to know that I'm not forgotten over there at South Park. And so they wrote, "Dear Miss Escalante, thank you for all your help with Start with Hello Week. Start with Hello Week is a super important part of our school, making sure students feel welcome and creating an inclusive school environment. We couldn't do it without you and your support. It means a ton to not only our class, but our school as a whole. Sincerely, Lily and the startership class." And so, Lily, my thanks to you. Is Lily here? Yes? No? Lily's not here tonight. But to all of you who are here tonight, who are going to come up and you're going to share with us how you work together to put together Start with Hello Week. So come on up, students from the startership class, and welcome.
Welcome, everybody.
Thank you for being here. Before they get started talking, I just want to point out that the startership class also helped me by looking at the different options that we're going to be talking about later on this evening. So thank you for your input on that. And I could tell which forms were from the kids because they used the most accurate terms, like this one's weird. And so I thought, they say what we all think in many ways. So I really appreciate that. You helped to give us a lot of insight with regards to that. So take it away. You have to get up to the microphone.
Yeah, please.
I'm Skylar.
Hi.
Cade.
And I'm Sydney Scott.
Hi. Gotta get up close to the mic. Yeah. Don't be afraid.
All right. Back here. These are the results of the Start with Hello Week that the startership class has successfully pulled off. You want to start? We had a cute little video we made for the students of the school. It was pretty entertaining, but it was mostly reintroducing what the Start with Hello Week was about, and kind of bringing back the idea to our students of the school. And it was a pretty nice video that was showed to most of the middle school. I do not know how to do that, so we can go over it. But
Yeah, let's see it.
all right, it was just here. I can't.
Is it long?
Huh?
No, it's 3 minutes.
Oh, yeah, let's see it.
Yeah, they're mostly like 3 minutes.
You want me to check?
It does not. We can skip over it.
No.
Oh,
Let's
did
see
not
the
know
video.
you could do that. Did not know. Oh my. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Does that? Wait, what?
Just click it.
Wow, that's loud. Does anyone want to help us out here?
Help the kids. Yeah.
And all I have is a clicker. I can't really do much.
Yeah, just hit a button.
All right.
There you go.
Oh, all right. Oop. Does anyone? That's very nice. All right. We'll wait. Yeah, we don't need audio. It's okay. You can kind of see the overall idea. We went over like a.
You can earn prizes. Each day of the week, you can participate in a certain activity in the bowl. Some may include a raffle or different ways to earn Start with Hello Week themed prizes.
Throughout the week, you can earn prizes like bracelets, beaded necklaces, and lace. If you participate throughout the whole week, you could be entered into a raffle where you earn gift cards and custom pins.
Number 4, there are activities in the bowl. Every day, you'll also be able to join others in different activities in the bowl.
Throughout the week, we have so many activities. On Monday, you wear PJs or comfortable clothes. And at lunch, you can participate in a video and say hello in any language you would like. On Tuesdays, don't be mean and wear yellow and green. And at lunch, participate by writing thank you notes. Wednesday is Wacky Wednesday. You can wear crazy clothes or crazy hair. And at lunch, there's a photo booth. On Thursday, it's Tropical Day. Wear tropical themed clothes, and at lunch, grab a glass of tropical fruit punch. Friday, wear your HBS spirit wear. You can wear, if you don't have that, wear blue or yellow. And at lunch, there will be a raffle for those who participated throughout the week. And you can win all sorts of prizes.
Number 3, opportunities to show pride for your school. Everyone is allowed to participate. Why not show pride for your school as well? We challenge you to fit with the theme of the day. Your teacher will keep you informed on the daily theme. Number 2, fun themes every day. Every day of the week there is a different theme on what you should wear. Can you fit the theme each day? Number 1 is, drumroll please, you can make a new friend. Start with Hello Week. Encourage every student to reach out to new people. This week, try to make a new friend, or you'll be very sad. Remember, we need you. Start with Hello Week isn't just about a few people. It's about everyone. Make a new friend today.
Yeah, that was our. Anyway, we put together a kind of student-friendly video that introduced the week to the people. Here, I'll see if that works. All right. So,
During the lead up to Start with Hello Week, we all got into groups and we worked on different themes per day, so we were split up. And then we all planned activities and came together as a class and decided what would be good for our school and why.
Can you go to the mic?
Yeah. So if we had something like a tropical day and you would get fruit punch, in order to get your fruit punch, you had to bring up a new friend with you to have your fruit punch. So each day there was something new. Those were just the themes each day.
yeah, that was introduced in the video, but that's just a little overview of the things you could you had to do if you wanted to. Here are the lunch activities. Monday we did the video, and as said in the video. Tuesday we had our special appearance with the LA Kings hockey team, and we had an assembly to learn about the Start with Hello. So that was I think that was before. I'm not really sure, or after the video, but lots of people were there, and it was a very big success. Wednesday we had our photo booth, which was presented in the next video, and Thursday at lunchtime that was fun. We gave out cups of fruit punch. Thanks to help with the startership class, we pulled that off with a great success, and we, as a class, we all wrote thankful and thoughtful messages on the cups, which would be handed out to the middle school. And on Friday, we had a raffle where random student names were entered, and there were pins, bags, and there was what was the grand prize?
A penny skateboard.
Yeah. And if I go back here, you can see our little winner. having his hit. Okay. And here's our last video clip, but this was our master video, which is around the same length, but it's sort of a where we put together where everyone said hello in a different language. And here I'll pull that up over there. Hopefully there.
another thing we did is we released the survey before Start With Hello Week that had 5 questions on it, which consisted of things like, have you ever seen bullying around our campus? If you have, what did you do about it? Have you said hello to someone new this week? These were the results from our survey before Start With Hello Week.
Oh yeah, here are the questions if you just want to.
Have you ever felt lonely or left out of an activity? Have you ever been bullied or witnessed someone else being bullied? If you've witnessed bullying, did you do anything about it? Do you think Hermosa Valley School is a welcoming and inclusive community? Do you believe you are kind to yourself? Have you said hello to someone in the past couple of days? And do you think Start With Hello Week made a difference on our campus?
Yeah, that's our survey. And there's the number of participants.
So those are the percentages of how many kids per grade level participated as we led into Start With Hello Week. So before Start With Hello Week, 33% of 4th graders said they have not felt left out, while 66.7% said they have. 41.4% said they haven't in 5th grade, and 58.6% said they have. Same thing with the survey results. We have the 44, the 44, and then the 38.7, and then the 55.6, and then the 61.3. 49 and 51, 51.2%, and 48.8%. So 94.8% said they are kind to themselves. I believe we only had 1 or 2 responses that said they're not kind to themselves. So 51.2% said they haven't witnessed bullying, and then 43.8% said they have done something about it, while the others have not. And it's the same thing per grade level. And then only 1 person said that Hermosa Valley was not inclusive and welcoming.
That's pretty good. Have you ever said hello to someone? Pretty impressive. We thought we kind of underestimated the results, and a lot of people did. And this is before Start With Hello Week. A lot of people did say hello. So
after Start With Hello Week, we totaled the amount of participants. So the percentages on the top are the percent per grade level who participated. We had huge participation from 7th grade, which is really good. And then we took another survey on Friday. We got the results on Monday that showed us how Start With Hello Week did. So now it's 73.2 and 65.9%.
So less people have felt lonely or left out of an activity.
Same with the middle school. And then the bullying, the people who went bullying also went down.
Yeah, no, it became bigger, which was impressive. 6th grade didn't do so well, but 7th, 8th grade has major improvement. And more people haven't witnessed bullying in 4th and 5th grade, which was pretty impressive from my point of view. So there was, we believe there was less bullying happening on campus because of the effects that Start With Hello Week have caused. Middle school's also doing pretty good. I think more people have said hello than last time when we compared the results, which was pretty impressive. The middle school did even better than we thought.
Majority of people said it made a difference on our campus as well, which is really important. But something that really caught my eye and a lot of the other kids' eye and stuck with us is the older that we got, the more bullying we saw happening, the more exclusion, and it keeps getting worse and worse as we get older. And I realize that when you're young, you don't think about the little things like what you're wearing and stuff like that. But as you get older, people will bully you because of that. And Start with Hello Week is really helpful to our campus in making sure everyone starts with hello. I'm actually new to Hermosa Valley, and we did not have this at my old school, and I really love this. I feel like it's really helpful in bringing the students together. I met a bunch of new people, and I talked to new people, and so it's really great to have on our campus. So in conclusion, 72% of people thought Start with Hello Week was successful, and 39% of people who witnessed bullying went and did something about it. So Start with Hello Week was really inclusive and welcoming for all the kids at our school, middle and elementary, and a lot of people participated during lunch. And I think one of the highlights was our Tuesday when we had the LA Kings come, but not only them, we had Nicole Hockley, who's the founder, one of the founders of Start with Hello. Her son was one of the victims of Sandy Hook. And it was really just powerful to have her there and listen to her speak to us and tell us about being kind to each other and how important it is.
Okay, we have goals. Our goals, we want to continue the largely inclusive environment we currently have on campus. We want to bring empathy for those in situations who feel lost to our students. We did a class in our Thrively that we did recently, and we did on empathy, and I think this would be very helpful for our goals that we want to reach as a school. We want to make sure every student knows that the school is a safe space and that they can always confide in their teachers. We want all students to feel welcome and included on our campus, and we really hope and we want to continue the positive attitudes from our students in the future, and we want to continue to increase the optimism at our school, View and Valley. And here's the pictures we took of our startership class. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have bracelets if you guys want them.
Oh, sure.
For sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
To the startership class, thank you guys so much for your leadership out there and for just working to create this climate on campus for inclusiveness and kindness. I think it's so important. I really appreciate the work you guys did. I was able to be at the Start with Hello Week for the King's Day, and Nicole's story also, watching you guys watch her, it was so palpable in the room of what everyone was feeling and why you guys saw it was so important. So thank you for your work, and for the staff and administration, thank you guys for your leadership on it too.
Thank you, Maggie. Any other comments, questions?
I just wanted to say thank you for just even putting together this presentation and being willing to stand up here and share that with us, because that's that's professional here. So you took it to another level. So thank you very much for doing that and just walking us through that. And the videos are really fun. So don't ever not show the videos. They're always good.
I second all that. So thank you, guys. All right, Superintendent.
So we have an abundance of riches tonight. Before we move on, I want to thank Caitlin Fuller, who is the teacher for the startership class, and she's really done a lot to engage the students and to provide an opportunity for them to share their voice. So thank you, Caitlin. You're really doing a great job. And I also want to say that the banners were up, the activities were knee-deep up at View School as well. And so I know that Ms. Gluck and her age group approached it in a little bit of a different way, but they had lots of fun things. There was a lot of interaction between the students with activities that they also talked about. And Ms. Gluck also has a student council this year too. So, but a lot of hands, a lot of volunteers. So we can't just make these things happen. Very appreciative of all the work being done at the sites. Next, we have our student council. Now I'm looking at the right group of girls. This is our new crew for this year. Some familiar faces, but welcome.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello. My name is Kina Desai, and I'm the elected student body 8th grade president this year. I can't wait for an amazing year and to make this year at Hermosa Valley the best year yet. Some of my ideas include putting an idea box in the office where any student can come bring in their ideas, a school fundraiser, but try like something of interest to the students, something new, maybe like cool socks, gel highlighters or scrunchies, a donation drive for homeless families collecting socks and shoes, and collecting board games for a local children's hospital. And I can't wait to work with my principal and all of you to implement these at our school this year. With the Halloween Carnival and our first HBS flag ceremony approaching, I can't wait to start the year off successfully with these fun events. Thank you, and I look forward to an amazing year.
Hi, I'm Sophia Lucky, and I'm the elected 7th grade vice president.
Hi, I'm Eva Asidao, and I'm the elected treasurer. So at the end of the month, we will be having our Halloween Carnival on October 25th. The Middle School Student Council will be having a bake sale to raise money for our student funds. We are very excited for this event, and if you can, please stop by and say hi.
Thank you for allowing us to share the news happening on campus. We look forward to sharing more at the next school board meeting.
Thank you. All right, our elementary counterparts?
Oh my goodness, are you serious? Both of them? That's hilarious. I love it.
Hi, I'm Ashley. We are part of the Elementary Student Council group, and we are very excited to be here. The week of October 28th is Red Ribbon Week. Students will be talking about being drug-free. We will be passing out pencils and dressing up each day to show our school and community that we pledge to be drug-free now and into the future.
Hi, I'm Melody. Our first flag ceremony is next week, Friday. We're looking for students who are prospective takers. We want our students to be open-minded and accept others for who they are.
Hello, my name is Ella, and tomorrow is our first annual new student lunch for all new 4th and 5th graders to Hermosa Valley. We have 20 new students in just those 2 grade levels. They will get to go to the NPR room for pizza and spend time with the student council representatives and get to know each other and becoming friends.
Hi, my name is Ellie, and we had an assembly last Friday on bike safety. Parents were able to sign up their child to attend. Students then brought their bikes or scooters where they were inspected and fixed if able, taught how to be safe when riding, and what different signs mean like yields.
Thank you, ladies. Great job.
I just also want to thank Monique Gonzalez, who is our middle school, at least, advisor. You're not with the little kids, too, are you? No. Do you know who?
Mr. Raska.
Oh, Haraska. Okay. And then what about at View? No, they're not here? Okay. All right. So we have a whole new crop this year, so I just want to make sure I got everybody right. And when our teachers step up and take on these other responsibilities, it really makes our school extra special. So thanks to both of you over there.
All right. With that, we will move on to oral communications from the audience to the board. This evening, we're going to have a few different sets of public comment or oral communications periods. The first one here, we will be entertaining public comment on items not on the agenda, as well as items on the agenda that are either not the public hearing or not the superintendent report and board discussion items. For both the 2 public hearings and the superintendent report and board discussion items, we will have public comment when we get to those points in the agenda. So with that, we will open the public comment to items not on the agenda, as well as the items on the agenda not including those items. Members of the audience may address the board on any topic regardless of whether it is listed on the agenda. However, the board may not discuss issues raised that are not listed on the agenda. Topics not on the agenda that are brought to the board's attention may be investigated by the administration and a report made to the board, either publicly or privately, at a future meeting. Complaints regarding district employees must be dealt with in closed session, not in public. Comments from visitors shall not exceed 3 minutes unless waived by a majority of all members of the board. We received 1 pink card from Regina Hoffman. Ms. Hoffman, we will begin with you.
I assume this is the appropriate time, even though
Yes.
I know. Okay, so make sure. Okay. My name is Regina Hoffman, and on behalf of Debbie Agers, Stacy Frankel, and myself, we wanted to use this opportunity to read an email we sent to the superintendent and board in June regarding the uniform complaint that we filed with the district. We want the public to know that we tried for over a year to get help from the administration, the superintendent, and the board before we filed this complaint in March. We also want to read this for our new principal, Ms. Rockwell, and our assistant principal, Mr. Scott. We sent this email to them at the beginning of the school year, but we never got a response. We left a message for Ms. Rockwell, and she did not return the call. We sent a second follow-up email to both of them and just asking them if they could acknowledge that they received this email, and no response. So they are presumably in charge of Valley School now. We want to make sure that this does not happen again to our kids who are still in the school district and any other kids that are at View or Valley School. And so now I'd like to read the email. This was sent to you guys June 26, 2019. Dear Ms. Perez, Ms. Escalante, and the HBCSD School Board, a year ago, June 2018, we asked the district to review the school's policies and procedures when a teacher takes a long-term leave of absence. The determination from the board in October of 2018 regarding the 2017-18 8th grade science class was, quote, we have looked at the policy and processes in place in order to determine if there needs to be a redo of what's currently happening, and the board decided not to take action at last meeting since the process was determined to meet the needs of the students and teachers, end of quote. So we filed a uniform complaint with the district in March of 2019. We received an investigation from the Hermosa Beach City School District in May of 2019, and then we appealed that decision to the Los Angeles County Superintendent of Schools. Our appeal to the county stated, quote, we believe this was a misassignment and the accommodations given to the teacher during her leave of absence left our students in an idle classroom. The students had different substitutes for a total of 71 days from February to June, 52 of those days with a substitute that held a 30-day substitute permit. We received a final decision in June of 2019. It says, quote, the Los Angeles County Office of Education Certification Unit has completed its investigation of the alleged 2017-18 misassignment that occurred at the Hermosa Beach City School District. Our investigation found that X was misassigned in a long-term 8th grade science assignment. The misassignment was reported to the Commission on Teacher Credentialing on June 11, 2019. Then we received the following update from the Commission on Teacher Credentialing. They said the Commission was notified of the misassignment on June 11th. We were also informed that the misassignment was not corrected within a 30-day time frame pursuant to Education Code 44258.9. It is now included in our records and we made available for any member of the public, educational advocates, and members of the press. It will also be included in our biennial report to the state legislature and commission along with all other misassignments. And this is how we conclude. We hope the district and the board have all the information they need to review the Hermosa Beach City School District's policies and procedures when a teacher takes a long-term leave of absence and can make changes so this never happens again. And we sign sincerely Regina Hoffman, Debbie Agers, and Stacy Frankel, and we look forward to the update. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further public comments for this public comment period? Seeing none, we will close public comment for this portion, and we'll move on to written communications. Do we have any written communications? Maggie?
Received an email from Suzanne Evans regarding the sand dune restoration.
Thank you. Jen?
I received an email from Scott Davies, Regina, regarding the misassignment, Scott Davies regarding the pros and cons of the vacation transition, and that was it. Thanks.
Thank you. Stephen?
Only communication that was received by the rest of the board.
Thank you. Barb?
Same 2 emails regarding the transition plan for the district.
Thank you. I received 1 communication regarding safety on Valley Park Drive, 1 communication on the Brown Act, 2 communications on the Valley Sand Dune, 1 on the NTMP stakeholder group, 2 regarding the uniform complaint, and 5 on the options for relocation of grade level classes. And then with that, we'll move on to superintendent update.
Thank you very much. Well, this worked out really well because I am going to address what Regina just spoke to the board about. And so what I have is a timeline of how, she filled in so many, Regina really laid a good foundation because she went over all the timelines. However, a lot of the information that she provided you, the district never received. The district never received, nor did the parents provide to us a copy of what she read from the from the CTC. And in fact, I have a letter from the county that said the CTC never sends out any kind of information or update. I also had to contact directly the LA County Superintendent to ask for a letter of clarification because we had not received anything up until September. So I'd like to, see what it is that we have had no communication about anything having to do with the press, the legislation, with many of the items. I tried to write them down when you were speaking, but we never received that, so I don't know where that came from. But what I can tell you is that I do agree that in March, Debbie Agers, Regina Hoffman, and Stacy Frankel filed a complaint with the district. That was in March of 2019. The concerns expressed in the complaint were from the 2017-18 school year and filed a year later in the 2018-19 school year. The complaints that were filed in the UCP were the handling of a teacher of record who was on a long-term leave of absence at Valley School, and Ms. Hoffman referred to the 8th grade science teacher. A 30-day emergency substitute teacher was assigned to the teacher of record for more than 30 days, and a search was not made to find a suitable substitute that possessed a science credential. The complaint was received, as Regina pointed out, and documentation was reviewed, and a formal investigation was conducted by Dr. Perez, the Director of Ed Services. The district's findings were that the teacher of record received the appropriate accommodations and modifications of their assignment per board policy and administrative regulations. The teacher of record properly notified the district of absences per district policy and the certified employee contract. All board policies regarding temporary and substitute teaching assignments have been reviewed. The district will continue to prioritize to search for properly credentialed long-term substitute teachers when the need arises. And the district will uphold the state requirement of the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing in compliance with Title V, which states that an emergency 30-day substitute teaching permit, which limits the substitute's assignment to no more than 30 days for any one teacher during the course of a school year. We were not notified what Regina Hoffman just stated, that the complaint was not corrected. It was corrected. In fact, it was self-corrected by the district in that the substitute was no longer providing services because it was the end of the school year. And by virtue of that, the misassignment was closed. So I'm not sure what she's referring to when she implies that it drug on and that there was a forcible action to correct this. The other thing is that the board hired a temporary teacher last year to cover for the teacher of record so that we weren't going to be faced with the challenge of finding a substitute with a science credential in order to cover the class and perhaps have the same sort of a situation. And so the board committed to the stability of making sure that the instructor was in place by hiring 2 teachers last year for the science class, one who was the temporary teacher while the other teacher was on leave. So that was a correction, and those decisions were made at the moment in June of 2018, which was 9 months prior to their complaint. The Los Angeles County of Education said that the employee that had the substitute had the emergency 30-day substitute teaching permit was found to be misassigned. we incorrectly interpreted the 30 days, the district did, that it was 30 days and then continuous. But we were unaware that it was 30 days over the course of a year. That is something that we have, we've learned, and now we'll be smarter about that moving forward, and so we will not have that happen again. That was a change that was made in either 2016 or 17. Prior to that, it was continuous, 30 days. And so we don't have an HR department, but we're going to do better about following up on that. The misassignment was reported to the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, but we never heard from them. And after I investigated it last month, I was told by LACO that they don't reply back out to the districts. And as I said, the misassignment was corrected in June of 2018 prior to the filing of the complaint by the parents. So that's what I have to report. And next, I'd like to talk to you. Do you have any questions?
Are there any questions? Maggie, do you have a question?
Yeah, I have
Please.
a comment.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pat, for following up on that. I would like to thank Regina, Debbie, and Stacy for their work on that and for helping the district figure out where, while we had our policies in place, they weren't being followed in that instance. And so I really want to thank you for your diligence on that.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
I would just agree with Maggie, and I know it's been a long process, and I'm hopeful that when you hear Pat say we are not going to have that happen again, that will give you reassurance for that.
Well, excuse me, but I didn't say that.
No, sorry, we are committed to not going over a 30-day limit for
We're
a
committed
substitute.
to following the commission and
Yeah.
what the commission says. But we do have other options where we now know that we can file, we can get extensions and things that we were not aware that at that level. But I didn't say that it wouldn't happen again.
Sorry, to clarify, yes, what you said just now.
Stephen, Barb? I'm good too. Thank you.
Next, I wanted to report on, there was a letter to the editor in the Beach Reporter last week from Mio Process, and the letter was regarding school board transparency. And typically, we don't respond to letters in the paper because they're opinion based and everyone's entitled to their opinion. But there were a couple of things in her letter that I thought this was a really perfect timing in our process and something that I wanted to address. One of the items that Mio asked is why the district deleted all of its financial information from the website and has not reposted any audited returns when other districts provide decades of worth of tax returns and budgets on their websites. What is the district trying to hide? And so I want to thank her. Because we do have our 18-19, all of our financials posted. That's when Paula became the business manager. But she's right. We should have had all of our archive posted. We did not resurface those when we did our web design, and I wasn't aware of it, but we have already corrected it. So I want to tell her that I appreciate that. We also are going to add our audit reports, and so that's going to be coming up next week. We can always, do better with our website and learning. Something else that she expressed was regarding transparency and accountability, and states that the district is not making tax returns available to the public, and asked if this is because the district wants to know who's looking at the tax returns. By filing a public records request, we would know who those individuals are. But what I want to tell Mio and to the community is that public school districts are exempt from filing tax returns. So regardless if someone files a public records request or not, there are no tax returns to share with the public. And you wouldn't find those, obviously, on any other school district website. Next, she asks if the board is worried about how the district brand 510 student school will impact the district budget, as enrollment has already dropped significantly. She goes on to write that the district income is tied to enrollment, and state increases in pupil funding may not be enough to offset declining enrollment. She points out that the district has already lost $240,000 annually since 2017, when the tenant at Children's Journey was vacated because we anticipated start of construction at that point. There's a lot to unpack in that point, but I'll just say that the district enrollment has declined. It declined starting in 2015. We've declined 5% since then until now. That's about 75 students. We also know that is directly linked to the reduction of full-day kindergarten to half-day kindergarten simply because we didn't have enough space. So it's kind of the chicken and the egg. This year, our enrollment has increased, and prior to 2015, each year we had an increase in enrollment. So we believe that the enrollment numbers will stabilize once we get through this building process, but I do want to address that. There also has been a slight increase in pupil funding, and I think Mia's right. It's not enough to offset declining enrollment. But we also don't have, we have a very low unduplicated number of student unduplicated count at 5%, which limits funding to the district. And so we are at a funding disadvantage. However, the board did an extensive cost analysis when we were going through the Measure S process, and I feel very comfortable that the board is following their finances and considering all of these needs and future planning, both at their annual budget workshops and at their adoption. This is, in my opinion, a tragedy that we no longer get income from North School because of Children's Journey. We did vacate that building with good faith that we had everything in place to begin the process to build. Unfortunately, there were unexpected delays from outside of the district getting the project started, and therefore we've lost over 2 years about $500,000 as a result of that. No one's fault. It was just the way it worked out, and but it wasn't because the board wasn't forward thinking. The board was extremely thoughtful in the timing of that based on what the information was they had at the time. She closes by saying the federal government requires that bond sellers disclose their financial information to prospective buyers. And she provides a website, emma.com, to find the district's audited statements. In this point, she's mixing apples and oranges because now you're moving into the bond account, which is different than the general fund budget account. So I wanted to separate those two things out. And I want to say that the district has met the federal government requirement that bond sellers disclose their financial information to prospective buyers. The agenda item where the bonds were approved is online. A notice of the proposed bond sale was published in the Bond Buyer on October 1st, advising prospective investors of how to obtain the POS and the notice of sale. So I want to make sure that people feel comfortable and confident that the board has followed all of their obligations. And with any of these items, you can review we do have our archive of all of our board agendas, all of our videos of our meetings, and so those things are available. And we encourage people to go ahead and take a look. And if anyone has a question about any of these items, including you, I'd be happy to answer them.
Are there any questions? Hey, Jen, Stephen, Barb?
Carrying on. Next, I want to talk to you about something spectacular that happened today, which was our bond sale. I feel so mighty when I say, oh, today I sold $23 million in bonds. But we did. We sold $23 million in our general obligation bonds, Series B. And so the bids were submitted by interested buyers, and the bonds were awarded to the bidder with the lowest bid. 9 investors signed up to bid. Now, I have learned that that is huge. And so our financial advisor was extremely excited about that. 7 of the investors submitted bids, which shows how strong paper is in Southern California, that people really want to buy bonds. The market is very, very strong for investors, and our credit rating in history has served us very well over time. So the lowest bid came in at 2.77 fixed, and it was awarded to Raymond James. And they've bought other bonds in the South Bay, and they are a highly rated company. So that was 2.77. The second bid came in at 2.78, and that was from the Citicorp Group. And so if you add the next five bids, the highest bid was 2.86. So you can see how tight the spread was, which is just fantastic because it helps us to feel good about the fact that not only did we get an exceptional rate, but this really shows what the market will bear. Now, you may say, I heard you say something, Pat, about a school district that got a 2.5 last month at this meeting. And I did. So I asked them, why aren't we at 2.5? And so he said that think of it in terms of getting a 15 rate or a 30 rate mortgage on your home. You're going to get a smaller rate with 15 years. And so the district that got the 2.5 was a 20-year bond program. Ours is a 30-year bond program, and so that was the differential. But with this total debt service on the financing of $38,639,240, the repayment ratio is a very low 1.68 times. And that's extremely low. Now, just a frame of reference, when we sold our bonds in 2016, it was like 2 days after Trump was elected. The market was unsure. The rates were at a historic low, and our rates on our Series A bond is 3.88. And so, over what, 3 years, we've been able to do very well. So now we're at the new historic rate. So. Congratulations. On October 23rd, the bond transaction will close and everything will be finalized. So many thanks to John Isom and his crew. They are selling bonds all over the state of California. And I really appreciate the board working with him, and also I think going into a competitive bid rather than a negotiated bid served us well. One buyer bought all those bonds. Do you have any questions on that? You don't look very excited.
It's great news.
Good job.
Comment.
Okay. All right. Last thing. The governor also is thinking about bonds, and he signed AB 48, placing $15 billion before the voters in March 2020 for construction and modernization of educational facilities. HBCSD is already in line. So should this pass in March, we will be in position to recoup I'm going to use friendly numbers, $2.8 million for North. And once we get view through our value engineering and finalization with DSA, then we are in line for $1.5 million up there. So these are important dollars that we need, considering that we have had an impact due to the delay of starting our projects. So if you have any questions, happy to answer them.
Any questions for the superintendent? Maggie? Jen? Stephen? No. Barb? No questions from either. It is fantastic news on the bond sale. It proves everybody's hard work and really paying off, and we're certainly doing something right to get that result. So great job to everybody on that. Thank you. Okay, with that, we are going to move on to our public hearings. We will start with H-01-1920, the hearing on the resolution number 05:19/20, Statement of Assurance on Sufficiency of Instructional Materials. Superintendent.
Yes, this is a public hearing that we hold every year. You adopted new materials in the area of science last year, but this is an assurance that all of the children in our district will receive those materials.
All right. Are there any public comments for this public hearing? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. Next, we will have another public hearing, which is H-02-1920, the hearing on the joint initial proposal from the District and Hermosa Beach Educators Association Certificate and Classified Units. Superintendent.
Thank you. This is an opportunity for anyone from the public who would like to comment on the items that that the district and the association have identified to negotiate this year under our Sunshine Clause. The Sunshine Clause is at the back of the agenda. You'll be taking action on receiving and filing that. So this is a public hearing to express any public comment.
Thank you. Are there any public comments for this public hearing? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. Thank you. With that, we will move on to board reports. I'm going to go out of the order of the agenda because that's not how we sit. And we will start with Barb. Yes, please. do that in this time.
So I attended the, Los Angeles County School Trustees Association meeting on September 23rd. They had two speakers there, one from LACO, talking about career and technical education pathways. It was pretty exciting stuff that they are working on at this point. And our program here seems that hopefully will feed right into the high school level, which will then give certification to the students, and then also have either from there they could either go on to work into the workforce once they leave secondary ed, or they can go on to a 2-year further certification program or a 4-year university. It's pretty exciting. There are 22 different pathways that they ID'd. Yeah, very exciting stuff.
Mm-hmm. Right. Thank you, Barb. Stephen?
Nothing.
All right. Jen?
Yeah, I have two. One is from the Hermosa Beach Ed Foundation and Parent-Teacher Organization meeting. Just a couple updates from everyone. HBF went first that night. March 21st is Hearts of Hermosa. Everyone to get pumped up about. The annual giving campaign is going on, or was going on at that point, and it was going very well. I'm not sure about any updates at this point from Carol, but it sounded like people were feeling very positive. One of the awards was going to be a lifeguard operations tour for the top classes.
Miss Rodriguez.
Miss Rodriguez
in 4th grade won that prize.
Pretty amazing. Looked like a pretty fun thing to go do. So thank you to all the parents that are continuing to help us bridge the gap financially with HBF. Talk about the Skechers Walk that's coming up to make sure that everyone gets on board and joins. You can join lots of different people in your family, grandparents, any relative you have. It is a huge fundraiser for the school district. So please consider, if you're hearing that from the community, to also join the Skechers Walk on behalf of Hermosa. Let's see. Then we moved on to 8. Those are the big ones. Did I miss any there, Doug? What you can think of?
Not that I can think of.
Yep. And then PTO discussed a lot of different things. A big push for PTO is just reminding the teachers and the staff about the special projects and the money that they have in special projects. Dolphin Dash is going to pulls a lot of weight this year, so please continue to support any people there and your students. There was a big pancake breakfast. There's CPK fundraisers. There's family portrait nights. There's TK Kinder mixers. There's all sorts of great things happening. And then the 25th is the Halloween Carnival. And everyone is very interested in filling positions on the executive board. So if you have people that are hearing this and want to participate, please come.
Please.
And then on October 31st, there is a pumpkin carving contest, which will be amazing. Because it's my favorite holiday. And the next day, it will be a gratitude candy drive. So if you would like to secretly take all the children's candy and bring it to school, put it in a pillowcase and bring it to Miss Gluck. And that is all I had for that. And then can I just run through the social and emotional wellness committee? Sorry, it just wasn't on the agenda. Social and emotional wellness committee met. The big focus this year is going to be to kind of support the perspective taking that's happening already at the school sites. There's a talk about having a new book, potentially a kind of trying to do a one book, one school. There is a book on the table. We're going to look to see whether that is potentially like a middle school or like upper grade school, and then like a different book for the lower grades potentially. I know the startership class is going to really get behind supporting that book, one school idea. It sounds like it's going to start kicking off in November for Thanksgiving break. And that's the big news there. So it's getting started.
Awesome. Thank you. Maggie? No reports. All right, thank you. I have 3 on my end. First was the Valley Back to School Night back on September 12th. Which was my first Valley Back to School Night, which was really terrific. It seemed like it had a very good crowd. It was good to see everybody out there, so thank you to everyone for attending that. The very next day, we had the PTO Back to School Picnic up at View. I want to share a special thank you to the PTO staff for putting that on, particularly Laura R.C. Niega. I apologize if I just butchered your name, for chairing that event. It's always a great event, and thank you, obviously, to all the administration, for everyone for attending that. And finally, our pancake breakfast, which was back on September 28th. Once again, thanking PTO staff, Liz Tindorth, the chair from the PTO for that event, Mr. Davey, who's in the back, for his work on that event as well. Thank you for doing that and everything that you do around there. It's really appreciated. And thank you, of course, to the LA County lifeguards for letting us all take over their building and experience all the trucks and everything. It's a great community event. It's one of those special kind of small town Hermosa events that you could only kind of get in a place like this. So I think it's really special for that. And to everybody who volunteered, I think was most of the group up here, most of the city council, administration saw there. So that was really terrific. Which one? Oh, I didn't do walk to school. I wasn't at it. I didn't walk.
It happened.
Yeah, please.
Sorry, I thought this was going to be covered. Walk to School Wednesday was last week, and a big thank you to Beach City's health districts for partnering with us, and for City Council. It was great to be with all the students on the streets.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we will close board reports and move on to superintendent report and board discussion. For that, we will start with R-09-1920 on the options on relocation of grade level classes from Hermosa View School Construction Project. As mentioned at the beginning when we're talking about the agenda, this evening we will not be talking about the establishment of the recommended bell schedule. To repeat also from the beginning, if there's public comment on this item, the superintendent is going to give her presentation on this item. We will open it up for board questions for the superintendent, and then we will have the public comment on this item, and then we will move on to the board discussion. So with that, superintendent.
Thank you. I've got my mic on. I'm ready to go. So tonight we're going to be talking about the vacating of View School and transition planning in what I would call phase 2 of our Measure S project. It was always planned that in order to apply a cost savings and time considerations, that View School would be completely vacated rather than working around school schedules and having children mixing with construction, particularly in a site that's going to require so much heavy equipment. So it has always been part of the plan and Measure S for both North and Valley schools to be used as transition sites. North School has started, or will be starting on Tuesday. And so now's the time to start the planning process to vacate the View for construction and to move the students to Valley and North. I'm looking tonight to the board to provide direction by selecting an option that you would like me to proceed with in the next phases of this planning that will be taking place. You will not be taking a board action that limits any changes or flexibility. This is the first step in us moving forward, but it's an important step because this is from which we will make a lot of decisions that all hinge upon one another. So the challenge is to vacate View School. And so far so good. And I think that I've already covered, what that is going to look at. So when I worked with my administrative team, we began to think about creating some board criteria. And over the years, we've listened to the board, and many of these things are parts of prior decisions that you've made. But first was to establish North as a 3-4 grade school in the year 2022-23, or whenever it was going to open. That is when we expect that it will open. We also needed to consider classroom space at North and Valley. We're jockeying between 24-1 with our kindergarten through 3rd graders and then 30-1 with our 4th through 8th graders. And so when you start moving through these options, you can see where a grade will suddenly change and have fewer classrooms needed. That's why. We're looking at 2 moves or less for students and teachers. We feel that everybody's nimble and everybody's willing to do what they need to do, but nonetheless, it is a process and it's changed, so we want to be considerate of that. We're also talking about vertical movement with regards to grade level district-wide. So the board has often talked to us about vertical articulation. We've been doing that within our staffs, and we've been doing that at grade level team leads. So that was important. Separation of kindergarten and first grade from older students. That was something that the board would wanted to consider as a criteria. The exploration of full-day kindergarten, the continuation with half-day kindergarten during this process. The number of students who would be moving in December, which is a very narrow window, and the number of students that we can move in the summer, which is a little bit bigger window, and no splitting of grade levels between sites. So with that, we also provided information, supporting information. Like, I was curious to know, if we're looking at all of these distributions, are we doing it for families that have kids all over the place? Or do we have families of just one child? And so their needs are going to be different. And so this information, supporting information, gives you a bit of a history of how many families we have, how many families with 1 student, 2 students, 3 students, and 4. And you'll see that it's fairly stable. We run around 980 families in our district. We run around around 650 for families with 1 child. Families with 2 children run in the 300, high 200s to 300 range. Families with 3 children run around 30. And families with 4 children run under 10. So it was an interesting perspective, and I think part of what is foreshadowing what we're going to be looking at as we move forward. Also, the historical enrollment at Valley. You know, we had some really big years over there at Valley, and so let's work with facts, and we can see that in 2014-15, 990 kids were at Valley School. And I believe that was we had already moved our 3rd grade, hadn't we? So that was just 4th through 8th grade. We have 15 classrooms at North with 2 flex rooms. The flex rooms are set up like classrooms, but they'll be used for specials and things along those lines. And at Valley, there are 32 classrooms. With, if we were to relocate the 4 portables from View, that would give you a total of 36. And so these are kind of our measurements and things that we're watching for as we go through the process. So we also decided to identify some focus groups. And so we reached out to, of course, the board, the district cabinet team, the Educators Association, the teacher leadership teams at both schools, the district support staff, that's maintenance and operation and business. We also reached out to the city council and the MOU team members, the HBEF and PTO leadership, the 8th grade students who you met tonight, and the MOU resident stakeholder group. Initially, we created 8 options for consideration. And as crazy making as that was, we decided to look at that based on enrollment, grade level groupings, classroom space, district data, and board priorities. And so out of that came 8 different configurations. And just as a frame of reference, I just want to say that in the Netflix documentary Inside Bill's Brain, episode 2, Bill Gates talks about how his principal, when he was in high school, asked him to create the school schedule for 400 kids. And after working on it for 2 weeks, and he had all the competing considerations, Bill Gates threw up his hands and declared, this is a huge problem. And so I am in love with Bill Gates because I am in touch with that reality, and I think that the entire community is in touch with that reality because this has been quite a process. Nonetheless, there were 3 options that when the administrative team was looking at the full menu of 8, there were 3 that came to the surface that really felt as if they were the most viable. And so those were the ones that were circulated amongst those focus groups. And as we expected, we got a lot of feedback from different representatives, but we also got feedback, and most of it was along the same lines, which I thought was oddly interesting. But we did get feedback from the parent focus group, and the parent focus group Wondered why we didn't move forward an option that had a third, fourth grade in it in some way, because we had always anticipated, I mean, we know that North School is going to be a third, fourth school, so why wouldn't we try to see if we could make that work in the first year? And I thought that was a really valid feedback. I took it to the board, and the board agreed, and so we added the fourth option. And so that's what the process was about, was to see what were we not looking at that others are. And I appreciate the parents for bringing that forward. And so we redistributed to all the focus groups 4 options rather than just the 3. And got a little bit of feedback based off of that. So are you ready to start walking through the options?
Let's do it.
Okay. So, but I'm not going to be perfect at this, but I'm going to be using my Bill Gates brain to talk you through it. So option, and also President Gardner, would you like me to pause after each option in case there's questions, and then we can put that option to bed and then go on to the next option, or do you want everyone to hold their questions until the very end?
Yeah, if there's specific questions on options, we can do those questions at this time. This should just be questions or clarifying questions for you, not pros and cons or other discussion of said option.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Option.
Bless you.
Option 1 is a K1 configuration over at North School. The reason why this option was pulled forward is because we really struggle with this notion of full-day kindergarten and predicting how many students we're going to receive, since we don't have a preschool, which is a good indicator, and that this might give us a first look at, if we went back to full-day kindergarten during this process, could we then start some forward planning based on some real numbers? And so we looked at this option, but at North School with first grade. But in order for this option to work, second grade would have to be split between North and Valley School. The reason why is because if the entire second grade would be at North School, it would tip us over the number of classrooms that would be available. If we look at splitting it, then it does impact Valley. There would be 983 students there. And 35 classrooms. That means 3 of the portables that we would need to bring a minimum of 3 portables down to accommodate the enrollment. One of the considerations on this option as well is that if these numbers, these are based on our current enrollment, if any of these numbers at North were to increase, it would have or at either one of these 2 schools, if our enrollments increased, it would really put a strain on the facilities consideration of this option. Moving into the next year, you're looking at about the same variables. You are picking up 1 more class that you would need. Now you're moving into a flex room at North, but you're using fewer classes at Valley, but it is still a impacted school with regards to the high number of students. And so that was pretty much the pros and cons for option 1. There was a lot of feedback about splitting second grade. To quote the kids, that's really weird. But to quote some of the adults, they were concerned about the social impact on friendships and on children feeling like they were being, and teachers, but mostly about the social emotional impact on friendships. There is a nice grade level cluster there, so you can do some grade level articulation. You could open up a combination class if we needed to. But there is an impact on Valley open spaces, and there is an impact on the neighborhood with all kindergartners needing to park and walk in. So that's the information I have with regards to option 1. And if you have any questions or comments, just questions. Happy to answer them.
Are there questions on option 1? Barb? Stephen?
Just to decode the chart, just so as we go through them, the numbers in parentheses
are the classrooms, the number of classrooms.
The number of classrooms. And so when there's a plus sign next to it, that's
The
a
plus sign means that we're already over what our ratio would be. So you have to keep an eye on it in case there were more students who enrolled at that grade level. We would be possibly either jeopardizing our 20-to-1 ratio or 24-to-1 ratio with the state for class size reduction, or we could be creeping into bigger numbers at Valley with regards to class sizes that would exceed 30 or 32.
Thank you. Jen?
Question. Just so I'm knowing, I'm reading this right. So in 2020, 2021, the second grade would be split, but then that's only for 6 months. Is that correct?
That's correct. But then second grade in the second year would also be split for 6 months. I mean,
Or
for
the
a
whole
whole
year.
year.
Yeah,
For a whole year.
Where?
In
21,
21,
22.
22.
Is it just not green?
I forgot to make it green.
Oh, sorry. You can't throw us off like that, Pat.
I know.
Come on. Lots of challenges. Okay.
Just call Bill Gates.
All right. I just was trying to clear. I know. I was like, ooh, real stretch. Okay. Thanks.
All right. Maggie? All right. I'm good too. Should we move on to option 2?
Yes, let's. Okay, option 2. Option 2 is a K-1-2 option. In option 2, you have the kindergarten through second grade at North, starting at North School, well, excuse me, at North School, moving there in December upon the completion of North School. So this cluster of grade level students will start at View and move to North in December. The difference here is that kindergarten is now half day, and so we would need fewer spaces. But the total is pressing the numbers at North School. Even though you have 419, that's what we would be reporting to the state. That's how many kids are in the grade level. Realistically, 75% or 75 of the kids will be there in the morning, and then a different 75 will be there in the afternoon. So there'd be 344 students there at any given time, which is within the range of what we've talked about loading at North School. Again, we're using, a maximum number of classrooms. We still have room for flex. One of the things, and then when you're looking at Valley, you have a third through eighth grade cluster. One of the things that's attractive about having that cluster is all the state testing is conducted within this group. So there's a lot that goes into it with computers and trainings and such. So that's a consideration. The kindergarten half day, if you bundled in this option, this is what appealed to my team. If you bundled this option, half of the kindergartners with the second grade, which is the 119 students, then you'd have a fewer number of kids being dropped off in the morning because the numbers they're smaller. So you can get, 75, I should have done the math, 194 students that would be dropped off in the morning, half the kindergarten and the second grade. That could be the first part of the staggered schedule. Then the second grade or the first graders could come in behind them for the second part of the staggered schedule, so that when the concerns about drop off and that burst of concentration may be supported by having fewer kids. Likewise, in the afternoon, you would be having 150 kids plus 75, about 220 kids in the afternoon, which then also takes the number of people dropping off and picking up at the same time. The conflicting point of view with regards to that is that you still have kindergarten and everyone has to pick up. So, park and drop off or park and pick up. So the day with a half-day kindergarten would be less traffic in the morning, less traffic in the afternoon, but you would have a midday exchange. And that could be, a great number of cars and parking and all of that midday. So for option 2, let's see, grade level, there's minimal teacher and student moves, with the exception of second grade that is really impacted both by the teachers and the students. The 3/8 schedule gives us the ability to have the flow of a school. So services, flag ceremonies, assemblies, supplies, we can bundle that together. I think those were the main points in option 2.
All right. Are there any questions on option 2? Barb?
I do have one. I don't know if this has been thought through yet or considered. The third grade, they're now at View, but would they start in September at Valley, just so that's less movement in December?
Correct. Thank you for pointing that out. Yes. So that would take the load off in December of one grade level. Yes. Thank you for pointing that out. That's important.
Stephen?
The load off will move. No. They won't. The teachers will move, but the students won't.
Jen, any questions on this one? Maggie? All right.
There's one other thing that I just should speak to is that at Valley, under option 2, the load is becoming more within the range of being more manageable. The classroom space would not require us to have our portables there, providing everything is constant. If we have an increase in enrollment, then that could change. So there's not a lot of room in this one with if we have an influx of students from kindergarten through second grade. But if there's an influx of students in third grade through eighth grade, we'd be able to handle it for both years. It's just a consideration when you're looking at the option.
Did you have a question, Jen?
No, I just wanted to ask a clarifying question on option 1. Sorry to go back, but that option 1 is really just, that is saying that we would have a full day kindergarten.
Yes.
Okay, just clarifying.
All right, so move on to option 3.
Okay. So option 3 is setting up we're really setting up, so our school structure is that we have our early elementary K-3, then we have our 4-5, then we have our 6-8. So you're really setting up a 3-program configuration at Valley School in 2020-2021. So in other words, you've got one early elementary class, you've got your third, fourth, and fifth graders. That is one comprehensive program, and then you have a comprehensive middle school program. So just a perspective in terms of programming and academics, that's an administrative consideration. You're also looking at a large number of students at Valley and a smaller number of students. Some might say a disproportionate number of students at North, and empty classrooms at North. So when we know there's 15 classrooms at North and 2 flex rooms and only 11 are being used and Valley is being heavily loaded, that is a consideration. But it is nice to have first and second grade. They would just stay put and they would get in and they would be the third and fourth graders when they arrive in the 2022-23 school year. The kindergarten on an island at Valley could work. Valley School is a K through 8th grade school. That's how it was designed. We do have 3 classrooms that we believe we could cluster for kindergarten. The thing about kindergarten here is that they don't eat lunch. So they would not impact the rest of this program, which is going to be extremely congested with 988 students there at all times. The kindergarten can come in, they can come out. There will be a lot of traffic on Valley Drive and in the Valley area because it would be the same considerations that North would have had in option 2, where you've got an early start, a middle exchange, and then a release. But but we do have the ability to create that. If that became a consideration. Let me see if I forgot anything else on that one. Yeah, Valley really has no room for expansion. There is that minimal movement for teachers or students that I talked about. There's an impact at open space at Valley, and a lot of open space over at North.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions on that one?
Are there any questions on this one, May?
Can you walk through what the kinder setup at Valley would look like in 2020, 2021, and then in 21-22, what the kinder first breakout looks like on the Valley campus? Like, where would they be?
So in 2021, when kinder's there just by itself, my off the top of my head proposal would be to put kindergarten where the fourth grade classrooms are. There's 4 of them that face where the front of the school. Right now there's a separate entrance. That was the kindergarten area back in the day. And so we could have them enter and exit through that side gate. They would also be enclosed because there's the gate at the other end. There's a boys and girls bathroom at the end of the hallway that we could designate for kindergartners, and they're not there for lunch, so they wouldn't have to go there. If the other kids are out for lunch, then they can use, there's an internal bathroom that's unisex that can be used. So for a year, we could make that work. But for 2 years, we would be adding first grade. So then first grade would have to would take up another 6 rooms in that pod. It's built like a pod. So those teachers would then be replaced into other spots at Valley. I'm not sure where, but we would have 35 classrooms to try to figure that out. 36 is a maximum, but that would be a lot. Also, in the second year, first grade would be really an island, because although kindergarten is there part of the time, they don't eat lunch. So we would, either the kindergarten or the first graders would have to eat lunch over by their classrooms or in their classrooms. We would not have enough space to integrate them into some sort of a schedule on their own lunch schedule, because we will probably, with these numbers, be running 3 lunch schedules just to accommodate the 4th, 3rd graders with these numbers. So that's a consideration for first grade.
And then there was a possibility of bringing the portables down from view, and so if that's the case, where are they going on Valley's campus, and who is going in those?
That has not been determined yet. That's why we're doing the options first, so that we can figure out based on what direction you want to go in. Those are things that we have ideas for each of the options, but we'll look at that more specifically once you give some direction.
Okay, thank you. Jen, do you have any questions?
Those are my same questions, so.
All right, Stephen?
No, same question.
All right, Barb?
Just wondering the rationale behind moving the second year, the first graders there, and not just keeping them at North. Or putting them at North, I should say, and then they would be there for 3 years, first, second, and third, no.
Because if we kept the first graders, then we would need 6 more classrooms. We would need 6 more classrooms, and that would put us at 17. And 17 is our max, unless if we really had to for a year, we could use the multipurpose room at North, but that would completely max us out.
All right, move on to option 4.
Okay. This is the most colorful option, I would say. So this is the option that we brought forward that has the 3-4 grade level in it. And I want to thank the parents because they came up with a different option with 3-4 that we kind of worked through and it didn't work. But they were open to anything with 3-4 in it that we thought might work, and this is the one that we moved forward. So I appreciate them thinking about it and working with us. All right, so this one is, so we would start off the year with everybody at, no, the kindergarten and first grade would go to Valley at the beginning of the year. And so we would be able to move them in September, and that would help to offset the load of moving in December. Again, you've got, this is the same configuration as the option 3, where you've got first grades on an island, but you also, and then you have a big jump to fifth through 8th grade. The class load is good. The classroom load is good. 31 is good. 930 is something that we've had before. It's less than what we had before. It would actually be 855 if you have half-day kindergarten there. Those are very comfortable numbers for a transition year. At North, you have grade level clusters that allows the district to be able to provide programming that is continuous, services that are continuous. You also have more grade levels that will be at North or have an opportunity to have spent time there. The concern on this option, it would be, or not concern, but a consideration is looking at the load. It's 400 students and 16 classrooms. You're pushing the limits. You're over the classroom limits. You're now in the flex space. There is one more flex space. So if there's an increase in enrollment, then maybe not in the first year, but in the second year, that would be a consideration. The odd thing about this option is 4th grade gets moved to North for 6 months and then back to Valley. That's a little awkward. Let's see. North opens as a 3-4 school from day 1, which is what the main goal of the board. Valley becomes a 5th through 8th grade, which is what it's intended to be at the time when North is open. So it mirrors the direction you want to go to. The common spaces are manageable. And I would say the first grade would be something that future committees will want to talk about. But we can figure out anything. So if you have questions about this.
Questions on option 4, Maggie?
And just to clarify, we never looked at the option of keeping 1, 2, 3 at North.
Yes, we did. Option 1, 2, 3 was rejected.
You can end it there if you want.
1, 2, 3 was right off the bat rejected because we would have maxed out all of the classroom space. We wouldn't have had enough room.
But that's
period.
The same load as what it looks like in 21, 22.
In 21, 22, we'd be completely there'd be 18 classrooms in 1, 2, 3 needed for North.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so we wouldn't have 18 classrooms. That's why that one was tossed.
It's different because in this one you have 4th grade and you have the 30-1 instead of the 24-1, so it requires less rooms.
Yeah, it's close, but 1, 2, 3 is different.
Yeah. All right, Jen, do you have any questions on this one?
I just wanted to, it was a clarifying question was, when you say the fourth grade would be awkward, it would be awkward here, you just mean I'm just clarifying, you meant the fourth grade teachers would stay, it's the students that would move back and forth, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Right?
Yes.
And then
Grade goes across. Fourth grade stay, well.
Fourth grade moved to North, but fourth grade, there still is a fourth grade in 2021 at North.
Oh, I see what you
It's
mean
just
by
the
teachers.
students. Yeah, I'm just saying there was and then my other question is, so in this option 4, is a full day kindergarten a possibility? I say that because if you look at option 1, your numbers, if you add 3 more classrooms, here you're still at 34 and you added 3 classrooms, not in option 1, where is it? Sorry, in option.
Sorry,
not option 1, but just in general, there would be room potentially.
If you may have.
I'm just saying then first grade would not be an island.
Right. So the answer is that if you add 3 more classrooms, you're right. We could accommodate that at 34, but you'd have 1,080 kids on site all day. Mm-hmm. And that would be we've never gone over 1,000. And having been the principal there when it was 990 before that, 950, it's rough. I don't want the front row to resign. These are, I appreciate going through this exercise. I appreciate going through the exercise because you're right. You start looking at all of these different configurations.
All right. Stephen, do you have any questions on this one? No. Barb? No. All right, I'm good too.
So, those are the options, and so what I did, and Michelle's going to put up a chart that I think maybe when you start your conversation, it can help anchor you when you're trying to compare them, because it is difficult to keep track. So the criteria that I read at the beginning is the same criteria that's written here. And we just went through, I really want to thank Kim for helping me with this. I got stuck, and she helped unstuck me with this chart. And so I think that it kind of helps just to give you, some comparisons for options with, competing interests.
Would you explain what you mean separation of K1 from older grade spans?
So trying to keep the young kids together rather than keeping at one site, rather than keeping little kids mixed in with older kids at the same site.
Did you want to do the
Oh
last
yeah,
slide?
the timeline seems insignificant.
Yeah.
But I want to leave this up. So I asked Michelle not to put up the timeline. It's just I can read it to you. It says in January of 2020, which is this January.
This January, yeah.
That it will form a committee to start really looking at a lot of the things like Maggie's question about where portables go, how many would we need, do we want to keep them, do we want to sell them, where we are. In April, start really prepping the teachers, to start thinking about these things. They're pretty hardy, so I think that they'll do fine, but we want to give them as many tools as possible. In September, those that we can move will move down to Valley, so that we can vacate, view with a minimal amount of bodies and stuff in December, and then in December completely have vacated View School, and students would start at North School in January of 2020. So that was the proposed timeline. So with that, if you have any other questions that come along in the process, I'm happy to answer them.
Are there any other questions for the superintendent at this time? Maggie?
Nope.
Jen?
I had a question just on the criteria. So I'm not sure you were able to do this, or this would just be subjective, which is impact on neighborhood as a criteria. Yeah, no, I mean, but some are maybe more than others.
Well,
it's like,
valley
you know,
versus view,
right. So
it's also subjective about what you think criteria, what impact would be. I think you could hear different arguments of different options. Some people may think half-day kinder and that midday is an impact, but it's better because there's less cars on the end. I don't know which is preferable. So I think that's for each of us to try to make a determination.
Right. Well, I can just, in answer to your question, Jen, the criteria, when we pushed it out initially with the original options to all the focus groups, they weren't measurable. So we took those same criteria and reworded them to make them measurable. So nothing subjective really is on here. And that was not in the original ones either. That's just such a given. I mean, to me, that's like you look at that first and then you go on. But maybe that was me being in my own head. But these are all measurable goals. Or not goals, criteria.
Can I ask one other question? Yep. Is that, can you just explain to the public that in the EIR there's some wording regarding the bell schedule, and what the, just so everyone is clear, there's also other factors that we have to think about in terms of when you're planning the schedule, and I think that's really important for people to hear that.
Sure, absolutely. So in the EIR, one of the mitigating variables is that there's a staggered start time or a staggered schedule at North. If it starts staggered, it's going to end staggered. So we're really just basically looking at the start to time to begin with. But the staggered time is either a 30-minute interval, which will obviously help mitigate any congestion, or 15-minute intervals. With the 15-minute intervals, then the school district would be picking up the costs of any traffic control officers that may be needed. The city would be paying the balance of that, so we would be in partnerships, because at 15 minutes, if there's going to be, I mean, it just makes sense. You know, it's more a compacted amount of time, so that could trickle out to, you know, other areas. We don't know. I mean, there's studies in the EIR. I don't have the data committed, but that's what those staggered intervals are about.
Sorry, just again to get clarification. So when, like, if you applied one of these options with that staggered start time, can you tell us what that, just in general, what that means? Because I think it does impact this decision. Or this not decision, but these conversations, because I think people don't realize that, and they think, oh, well, everyone's going to come at the same time, and everyone might come at the same time, but there's going to be these interval start times. And
the bell schedule really has to be developed after you choose the option. Barb's been working on it.
I can add, if you want me to, I can add a little bit to it. Well, another factor is that I don't know if it's kindergarten once they go full day, but at least first through third grade, the required amount of minutes per year is, what is it, 50,400 versus fourth through eighth is 54,000, which is 20 minutes more per day. So there's kind of a natural staggering right there for third and fourth, because third only needs so it would be, you could do 20 minutes. So this is, I've been looking at, looking at lots of different start times and end times for all of the different moving pieces, and definitely you need an option first in order to nail it down.
You need an option.
Yeah.
We could do 20 minutes, but we can't do 20 minutes because in the EIR it says 30 or 15. So we will go ahead and work off those two options. Once those two variables, once we have our option. Now, I asked the question of our consultant about, well, what if the 30 or the 15 creates more problems than we anticipated? And because it's, human nature is subjective, we can't factor that in. And so what they said is that you would have to show that you've tried the 30 and 15, and you'd have to show evidence and do a study or collect data to show that it's, rather than mitigating the impact, it's creating an impact, and then you can reopen it, but it's a formal process. So we will look at 30 or 15, and so based on the option, we may come back with either with two options of a 30 or a 15, but we'll work on that after. It's not going to be that complex because there's only so many ways you can make it work. But we'll look at the option and go from there. And we don't need to bring the bell schedule back to the board. I will talk to President Gardner about how he wants to proceed with that. You don't have to take action on it. But we do want to get it to the MOU team prior to November 1st. And we will. We will.
Are there additional questions for the superintendent at this time? Stephen?
I do, a few, just clarifying.
Yeah, please.
Thank you very much for the criteria. Is there actually a staff recommendation or a point of view?
Yeah, well, I would say that there's been, yes. I'll just say yes.
Okay. Could you talk to us maybe in that context just about what maybe factors are thought through by the administration in terms of programming, organizational management, education? I just want to hear a bit more about how maybe some of these options, how that works across these options. I mean, these are all viable options with regards to running the district.
You want me to go through all four of them with that? I think I probably touched on most of it.
As long as you have, yeah.
In option one, was there anything specific about option one regarding that you?
No, well, if you could, my question on that is directed to option 3 and 4, but.
Okay, so let's start there. When the grade levels are clustered from an academic point of view, then it helps to better prepare for teachers to prepare, for us to do trainings, for us to build some vertical articulation, for us to have an option to do combo classes if we needed to, if there was an enrollment situation. It's also nice for kids who are at the same developmental age to be with one another. This is, temporary, so it's something that, I would not recommend for being the permanent schedule, but it's definitely doable. And the same at North. You've got 2 grade levels that are there full day. Those kids will get super close to each other, and I think that you can facilitate programming and so on. There is an advantage. I know this may sound unimportant, but for an operational point of view, for the custodians and the way that they clean and the way that they're scheduled, this makes a lot of sense. Not only that, but for our testing, to have everyone at one site, because we have to provide support to make sure everything's done, and to have it all clustered, that's also good. When you have your assemblies, when you've got your flag ceremonies, when you've got things like that, but it's temporary. So I would say is that what you're looking for?
That's great. Yep.
Okay, and on 4, again, I think that the second and the North cluster of 2nd through 4th grade meets those same needs, as well as the 5 through 8. It's the kindergarten first in with the Valley kids. I personally am comfortable with the way the school is set up, but it is an incredible load on the open space and on the scheduling and the use of the open space, particularly if we need to drop in portables and take up some of that space. So is it doable? Yes. Would the parents be willing to think about having a different kind of kindergarten and first grade year in terms of maybe not having accessibility to the whole, maybe the library comes to them, they don't go to the library, maybe first grade has to eat over by their classrooms, maybe they eat in the park area. There's going to have to be some creative thinking with all of these options. But I think that the board will just need to decide what you're hearing and what you think makes the most sense for the district as a whole.
Next question, sorry. Contingency plans. So a lot of this is direction, and obviously things based on what we know, and there are known unknowns ahead, no doubt. Are there contingency things that triggers in place, or thoughts that we can put in place that you'd be mindful of, or you're looking for direction on one plan, not two, I'm assuming, but I'm just wanting to just clarify where we're at.
Yeah, I think that we need to, I'm looking for direction on one plan, because why complicate this or prolong the complication? There's going to be a lot to discuss on top of doing all of the other things that, are important to kids. So selecting one will give us the ability to move forward. The contingency plan is that as much as the first year is going to be the most fluid, if for some reason, let's say we have an incredible rainy season of some sort and North gets delayed, or something, out of our control happens, then the question before the board will be, are you going to move everybody in the spring when there's only 2 months of school, or do you wait until summer and do the move that way? I mean, so maybe the first year won't happen. I mean, if you're going to talk about contingencies, maybe it's the second year is the one you have to look maybe a little bit more closely at. I'm not, I really don't believe that will happen. I know that our contractors are on a tight schedule, and they've already committed to what that school's going to cost, so they're not interested in hanging around. But you don't know. I mean, we're having a paleontologist out there next week and the archaeologist. If they find bones, we're shut down for a while. Right. So no planting bones, residents of Hermosa Beach. Scott. But I mean, these are just the realities of the process. So,
right. And are there any other considerations? I mean, just the move time over a short winter recess is feasible for some of these loads, and so again, that I don't know if that's something that could be considered or would need to be considered in terms of the move time. And just some of these involve potentially 16, 18 classroom moves.
Yes. So we'll hire, a moving company to come and help us, and we'll just make it into Where's Waldo adventure for the kids, and figure out how to make the best of it. But we will be working very closely and have to be very well synchronized to ensure that we can deliver a learning environment for the children that they're entitled to. Yep. So that's why we need to know which option you're leaning towards, that you want us to continue to, build on, so that we can start really looking at those things. So if there's other adjustments that need to be made along the way, we can start factoring those in.
That's great. Some of the, when looking at historical enrollment of Valley, and you talk about those dark years or big years, whatever we refer to them as, you were saying like 990, 950, those are sizable items. And am I right that at that time, because they wouldn't have had portables, they were using the NPR and other things like that, correct? But we would have more flexibility because we'd be bringing other classrooms across.
We have
somewhat. I mean, obviously it's still the same campus and what have you, but it's...
Right, so at North there's 15 classrooms and 2 flex.
Yeah.
And then at Valley, there's 32 classrooms, and then we could add 4 portables that we own from View for a total of 36.
To clarify, are you counting the NPR in that 30? Okay.
Without, I should say 32 without impacting programs. Yeah.
And was there any other input from the focus groups given? I mean, you mentioned a couple of comments from the kids and things like that, but anything else?
Yeah, I would say, so the parents have generally have indicated support for option 4.
Mm-hmm.
The district focus people, the teachers,
Mm-hmm.
have really expressed a preference for option 2, and the kids for option 2 as well. The MOU stakeholder group, I've heard from 2 people, and they both had different points of view, different options. So, you know, that was pretty much it. But I didn't hear from a number of these focus groups. They didn't engage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Barb, do you have any questions?
I'm good, thank you.
All right, I'm good as well. So with that, we will open it up for public comment on these items. Members of the audience may address the board on any topic, regardless of whether it's listed on the agenda. However, the board may not discuss issues raised that are not listed on the agenda. Topics not on the agenda that are brought to the board's attention may be investigated by the administration and report made to the board, either publicly or privately at a future meeting. Complaints regarding district employees must be dealt with in closed session, not in public. Comments from visitors shall not exceed 3 minutes unless waived by a majority of all members of the board. Is there any public comment?
Good evening, everyone. Scott Davey, 486 25th Street. And a couple of comments. One, I know Pat and I get along very well, and she was joking, but I've tried to be very supportive and not obstructive. So maybe people in the audience might not have appreciated the comment about bones and tying me together. So if you would clarify that.
I will. I appreciate that, and I'm
Yeah.
so sorry. We have a very small group here, and I happened to catch Scott out of the back of my eye, and he's right that that was inappropriate, and I didn't mean to. I wish I hadn't.
I know you didn't, and
that's what matters to me is that you know I didn't.
I know.
But I thank you for bringing it up. I do apologize.
Yeah. Good.
I do.
So good news, bad news. And the bad news is there are these options that there's not one great option the way I look at it. And that's why there's more than one option. The good news is it's a transition period. You know, this isn't the way it's going to go forever. And so we're going to get through the transition period. And the neighborhoods, whether it's Valley or View or North, you know, we're all going to be impacted by a little bit, and that's what you get. And that's what progress is going to get us. So to focus on the good parts of that. I did send a comment letter off, but the main point of the comment was not to select option 3 or 4, 2 or 1, but to say it's impossible for me to make those determinations until I hear the pros and cons, which is why I'm here tonight. And it would have been helpful, I think, for our stakeholder group to hear some of those or have some of those pros and cons from your point of view before we were asked to comment. So with that in mind, again, there's a number of good options. You guys are going to make great decisions. You've asked pertinent questions. Somebody's not going to be happy. It's a transition period. I think you guys are going to make a good decision. So those are my comments.
Thank you. further public comment? He always does. It's bedtime. That's his comment.
My name is Ralph Spargo. I'm a member of the stakeholder group also, and I'm here as an individual since we've not met as a group since receiving the information. We have received information October 3rd regarding 3 options and a 4th one on October 4th that are presented here tonight. I think they're all reasonable options, but I think we need to evaluate them and based upon that make our recommendations. Excuse me. We also received answers to some specific questions that were developed after our first meeting. The first was to provide a short brief as to why the stakeholder group is required as part of the FEIR and the MOU. Receive an answer, a portion of which I quote, form a stakeholder group that would be created to share information and gather public input on relevant topics including peak traffic conditions, speed, safety, sight distance, anticipated and proposed student loading, and parent and resident concerns that might deter walking and biking to school or use certain routes from the project. So that's been our charge. And we've been charged to develop some recommendations in the neighborhood traffic management plan. So and I have my own opinions, but we have not met as a group, so I'm not even going to talk about my opinion because I have more than one. If we are to be effective in this analysis, we will need time to evaluate each of the proposed options. Therefore, I would suggest that this item be continued until the group has had time to further evaluate the data, the alternatives, and listen to further community input, which has been scheduled for Monday, the 21st of October. We could then be in a position to make a more well-informed recommendation. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Is there any further public comment on this item? Maybe? All right. Seeing none, I will close public comment for this item, and we will open it up for board discussion on giving the superintendent direction on which option we think should move forward. Barb, do you want to get us started?
I'm thinking maybe would it be easier if we could possibly maybe have consensus with eliminating 1 or 2 and then kind of hashing out the other ones?
I'm open to doing that. So we could do it.
My suggestion would be the option 1 doesn't sound very favorable to anybody.
Yeah, is everybody wanting to say which option they consider the bottom option? You can start that way.
The least.
The one you like the least? Yeah, we could do it that way. So
I'd say 1. Splitting the 2nd grade, I don't like that.
Stephen?
Yeah, similar. 1.
Jen?
Yeah, I'm on the same page.
Maggie?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm good with that. We can move on from option 1. I agree. Splitting the 2nd grade is basically a non-starter. So with that, we're down to 2, 3, and 4. Do you have specific comments on those ones?
Not yet.
Okay, Stephen?
Come back to me. Thanks.
I do. I mean, I would like to maybe put to the board that option 2 is perhaps, if we were to narrow it to 2, I'd rather focus conversation on options 3 and 4. I think that, it's interesting to hear that maybe this is favored by some constituents. I just think that having that younger group at North, I just want to set that area up for success in terms of families that are walking, or have the ability to walk with slightly older children, etc. I see the numbers, obviously, with the midday exchange. I think there's interesting dynamics there, but I'd be open to taking option 2 off the table.
Is there a feeling that that's amongst the board that that's a good idea? Do we want to discuss option 2 further?
I do.
Okay. Yeah, I think option 2 is worth discussing further as well.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll keep option 2 in the game. Jen, do you have thoughts on certain ones?
Stephen, done?
I'm done on that, yeah.
Well, I just wanted to talk about what my personal criteria was for kind of trying to go through this process and hearing what all the different points of view from different stakeholders and parent groups and, administration and teachers and students and my own, thoughts and my own experience of moving schools and just the way I go through the process is I'm trying to look at it from happy teachers mean a happy school site, which means students are learning. And our job is to make sure students are learning. So that's my forefront. And then I think about the impact of the neighborhood. And I think I'm impact of Valley. And then I weigh up like size of humans. So I think kindergarten and first graders are smaller people, so they don't take up as much human space but they have different needs. So I weigh all these, in terms of bathrooms and safety and playground equipment, and those are much different needs than other older students have. So I don't look at like splitting grade levels as a like it's a non-starter, but I don't think it's the best option. So option 1 to me is I don't disagree, but I think anything is possible for a certain amount of time. So I also am trying to consider like human patterns and like these are great plans, but humans are going to do different things, which is why I'm asking about the start time and wanting to make sure that's on the table for me, because as much as we are going to say there's these start time intervals, people may still decide they're going to go to work at the same time every day is what humans do, and then they're going to drop their kids off, and you're going to have a load of kids coming. You don't know when they're going to come. You can't control you can't tell your parents to keep them in the car. It's going to be hard for the school to control. So those are all the considerations I have. So when I look at these options and I think about portables, and I think about what the best thing for students would be to probably get them settled and teachers settled in their spots as soon as we can. To me, that's why option 4 becomes very attractive, because you end up getting people settled because the color bands stay in the same spots a lot. Anyway, so that's how I think about it. So I think about like option 4 seems very attractive to me for that, and I'm listening to the teachers and students with what their needs are with this option 2, which. But the hard part for me is, and I think the neighborhood would be impact on kinder with kinder parents, and as much as I just think kinder parents need a lot of training. That's my experience. Is kinder parents need training. They need training on how to drop things off, and so putting them out there to the kind of the front lines for us on North School would be very challenging for the parents, for the students, and for the neighborhood. So I don't like that as the best option for North, even though programmatically I can understand why that makes a lot of sense. So I tend to lend myself to, I personally also think it's okay to cluster kinder and first grade at Valley, because I think it's a great school. Number one, it's set up for, a K-8 situation, and you can be creative with playground equipment and taking care of the needs of the kids, and it gives an opportunity for 8th grade, 7th grade, 6th graders to kind of take care of other kids and have partnerships with kinder and first grade kids. So, so to me, I look at housing kinder and first grade together at Valley as a very viable option. So I would, I look at option 3 and option 4 as my 2 options I'd keep on the table. That's how I rationally think about it. But then I'm listening to like that, do all the stakeholder groups, weighing in on all this and like being able to analyze and understand. This is a complex issue. So I feel like we're doing that with our task is to think about students and families and teachers. That's what our task is. And then keeping the neighborhood very, very present in mind. But I feel like that's where I come. I come to option 3 and 4.
Thank you, Jen. Meg?
Jen, I really love the way you framed a lot of that. And so I second just about everything you've said there. I think when I'm looking at this, I am thinking about communities. I'm thinking about the grade community, the school community, and then the surrounding neighborhood community. And so in that in mind, I'm looking at Valley's community, Valley Schools community, of which I am a neighbor, as much as I'm thinking about View School community. And so I do think, for me, option 4 is the most attractive because it equally shares loads in those neighborhoods. I appreciate about what you said about the kinder and first and kind of pocketing them together. Some of the caveats I have that I would really want us to focus on for Valley to make it work for those youngest kids is really thinking about how we're staffing on playground aides, really thinking about how we're doing traffic safety officers in the neighborhood, since we will require more cars having to do a drop-off and walk to school, so we need to think more carefully about traffic flow within the Valley School neighborhood. And then looking at specifics, like maybe it's a day earlier start for kinder, so we're really welcoming our newest families into the district in a way that makes them feel special and safe and welcome into the community. So I think there is a lot of thought that needs to go into creating Valley as an appropriate to re-welcome like kinder and first, since it was a K through 8th campus at one point. Like, how do we go back into that mindset to create that space there? So I like option 4 because of the grade load splits. I like option 4 because we are honoring the North School promises of having a more walker, biker, commuter population at the North School site. I think that's important to that community there to set the neighbors up in that area for the most success, since that's where we've had the most conversation. And for those same reasons, I dislike having option 1 and option 2 because it puts our youngest kids at those campus. And we are, I think we are setting the whole community up for a really hard conversation in terms of what traffic impacts would look like for that first 2 transition years. I dislike in option 4, my other caveat is I dislike our 4th grade having to move that much. That seems unfair to the 4th grade parents. So I don't like that aspect of it, but I also think humans are pretty resilient and we can work through that. In terms of my last comment for the, and that's for the similar reason for option 3, the Valley load. At 1,000 students or 963 students. I remember the days at Valley when we had that many, and the amount of incidents that went up during lunch and on the playground were not desirable. Nobody appreciated it. Nobody looked forward to having that many kids on a campus, especially when we would have little ones on that campus. And then my last comment, thank you, Mr. Spargo, for coming and giving comment. I really appreciate the MOU and TMP group coming together, but I do think, for me, I want that group to solely focus on, like, how do we make the North School community, once it is open and a fully fledged member of the community, like, I want all that attention focused on that. I think trying to have that group split on what is a 2-year transition period versus like the full rollout with all the grades set is a different conversation. So I do think that the MOU group should focus on the NTMP arrangement. Thank you.
Thank you, Meg. Barb, swinging back to you, if you have anything additional.
I have another question about administration. If how is that going to be split?
Well, View will be closed. So we have 3 administrators. We'll have a principal and a admin continue at Valley, and then we'll have a principal at North.
Okay. I'm just thinking if, okay, it's just because if there's going to be K1 and then 5 through 8 at Valley, it's going to, so would it kind of be split up, maybe principal and assistant principal, maybe oversee? I don't know. It's just it's a strange mix to me of ages.
Yeah, it's a principal and an assistant principal at Valley, and then a principal at North.
Okay, so Sylvia wouldn't have to be wouldn't have to be running back and forth, like doing part-time at North, part-time at Valley. If there's a kindergarten and first grade there, that's my point.
North, no one will be at North. There will be no running back and forth. Everybody will move out. Either they'll be at Valley or they'll be at North. View will be.
No, I know, but what I'm saying, so she would be at. So if we put kinder and first at Valley, you're the K3 principal.
Oh,
you know,
doesn't go that way.
No, okay.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. No, whoever is the principal at Valley will take care of the students at Valley, and they'll have an AP. And then whoever is the principal at North will be the principal at North, and there will no longer be a principal at View until we go back. And then, and that's a whole nother conversation. We've had it before, but most likely, based, if you look at 3 years out, you'll either make the assistant principal position a principal position and eliminate the assistant principal position. So the personnel, human resources parts of that shouldn't be considered in the equation.
Barb, do you have any thoughts on a preferred or a top option or a top two options?
I would prefer option 2, just logistically, just thinking, in terms of keeping the little ones together in a separate place. Valley, our View is such a special place with just the little ones there, and I'm concerned about putting the little ones over at Valley, even though they will be separated. But I could live with 4. I don't like 3. So if we can maybe possibly eliminate 3, and then, I could live with either the other 2 options.
Okay, thank you. Stephen, do you have additional comments, questions?
Yeah, I mean, for staff, I guess going down the line, we didn't necessarily, so we only eliminated 1, correct?
Correct.
That was the original go down the line. Okay.
Yes.
All right. I mean, I do want to sort of reiterate some of those points in as much as thank you to the administration and the district sort of going through the rigor of this, because there's just a huge amount of, both Bill and Melinda would be very proud of you, so that's fantastic. Also, I'm not trying to be sort of sycophantic. I mean, this is like you went out of your way to go above and beyond to get all those stakeholders, collective input. I think that's incredibly well appreciated. I know sort of from speaking to a number of those folks as well. Garnering that input has really helped us both with a framework for review and consideration. I think Scott framed it, good news, bad news. I mean, there is no, I don't think there is a silver bullet. Clearly, we've just gone down the line. There's no silver bullet. So there's, that's that. But also to really focus on the positive. I mean, we're going to end up with brilliant schools, and it's a little bit like the pain of having to redevelop your kitchen or whatever it is. Like, you're going to go through it. It's going to, you do your best. We live through it. And I think that, again, the due diligence that's been paid to these plans has been fantastic. I would also like to think about maybe the communication and that positive dissemination of the review and the thought process and things moving forwards, just keeping that communication going. I think that's going to be really important for people, that parents, as they think ahead to this, who knows, we might see some drop-off of some parents who, with one particular plan, that may not be for them, and we don't know. But I think that the more we keep this open communication going on, and it's just a future-forward sort of positive thing, I think will be great. I think that option 3 to me is interesting only in as much as there's a point there of you're starting off with grade levels, both with kinder and then with a kinder and then a new kinder, that they wouldn't know any different. So there are family members, obviously there may be parents who have got other experience at different sites or different grade levels, but for the most part, they're going in there as kinder parents and they're going, wow, this is the experience, and we're going to make sure it's a fantastic experience for them. And likewise then the following year as well. So there's I like that aspect of it. What concerns me is just the size of things. And so, I'm also favouring option number 4. So I think that is where I'm at with current board discussion. So thank you.
All right. Thank you. From my end, I want to start similarly to Stephen. I want to thank in particular Superintendent for all the hard work. I know her and I have had a week on this, but I do truly appreciate the opportunity to speak with you about it and work everything out, and all the tremendous amount of work you put into this and everything else. It truly is appreciated. I know Kim as well. I saw her binder of however many options she ended up with. That, you know, I know there were more than 8 at some point. You know, we don't talk about the other ones, but I know they were out there. So I thank you as well for all the hard work and effort into this. The stakeholder groups, Mr. Spargo, Mr. Davey, and the ladies in the back, everybody else who participated through this process, and the thought and effort they put into that as well. I think for me, the decision really comes down to 4 things. You know, this did a great job of putting this criteria, it's not on the board anymore, sheet together, but I think for me personally, it's really 4 things that overrode everything. First is we need to maximize the resources at North and minimize the impacts at Valley. The pain has to be spread properly. As Maggie said, also, the district continuing to do what it said it would do in Measure S. I think the board and the district and the superintendent have been so consistent in the messaging for 4 years now, 5 years now, and we have not wavered from that one bit, and that takes so much strength and stamina, and now is not the time to change that, in my opinion. As I hinted at before, splitting grades, at least to me, is a complete non-starter. That's discussions that we've had many times that I at least have no desire to revisit. And the 4th thing to me is we're going to have this fabulous brand new school over in North. So excited for next week to finally get going. To have the most number of kids be able to experience that place, what's going to be such a special place, that the option to me where that is enabled, which kind of gives away where I'm going with this story, is really, really important. As many kids as possible should be able to touch that building and that field and that everything that will be there. That's what I would look for. So with that, we already killed option 1, so I won't go into option 1. I do like, as Barb noted, option 2. It does use all the space at North while leaving the flex room, so there is some growth there. The number of students at Valley is manageable. It doesn't near the kind of the top levels that we're looking at, particularly in the second year when it drops a little bit there, because particularly the second grade next year is a smaller class, so that does help in the 21-22 year. It does have operational, organizational efficiencies, moving third grade back. That was at Valley until 3 years ago. So it's kind of going back to that. And then you can just kind of pick up View and drop it in North, what would be the K to 2. So I understand that from that way. Option 3, to me, there's just way too many kids at Valley. There's just way too many. I've heard from a lot of Valley parents that there's just not a desire to go back to those days of that many kids, particularly if we're going to have to use portables. That's going to sit on some of the open space, and it's going to be even more cramped than it was before. So that, to me, leaves option 4 as another viable option. It uses all the classrooms in North plus one of the flex spaces. I can live with using one of the flex spaces if we use the NPR for music or something else for those 18 months. We can do that. The number of students at Valley is very manageable. It doesn't put us up at those peak times. It does minimize the number of moves for students and teachers. It's the 3-4 school that we said North is going to be, allowing those students, more students to walk and bike. Although we would have second grade there as well, it does give us a sense to be able to see what 3rd and 4th graders are really going to do. So we can adjust things as necessary when we get to that kind of final point. And it's the most colorful option. And particularly in those bands of North, we get 4 classes would get at least some time in North. That's 600 kids. Over half of our population would get to touch that building, that place, which really means a lot to me. So that kind of leaves 2 and 4, in my opinion. I do have concerns about our youngest students, our kindergartners, going to North. I think Maggie touched on that that point as well. And option 4, it doesn't necessarily have that vertical movement that we'd be looking for, is kind of the con on that way. I'm a big fan of, I think option 4 is the best option, as well as, it sounds like, Maggie said that that's her top option. It was in Jen's top 2. It's my top option. It was in Steven's top 2. It was in Barb's kind of top 2. So my suggestion, based on listening to everybody, is, unless anybody objects, is to give the superintendent the direction to move forward with option 4. That seems to be the consensus of the group. So is everybody comfortable doing that? Is there any questions, concerns, objections from my fellow board members to that direction?
I have a question.
Sure.
Just if for some reason on the 21st they come up with another amazing option, are we open to at least for this the NTMP stake? I mean, if they go back and they dive into this differently and see a 14th option that might be on the table, I just want to know, is there, like, not to say that we would, I just want to know, is that, are we going to still be accepting any input?
Well, I don't think so. It's not.
No, I would agree with that as well.
What?
I would agree with what you're saying. I think now is the...
It's not. It's really not the scope of the NTMP. One of the reasons why we reached out to them was because when I was looking at our focus groups, I realized there was a giant hole there without talking to people who are invested in the neighborhood. And so when speaking with the city, Leanne was comfortable with pushing it out, not so much as a part of the MOU process, stakeholder process, but because they were people who had been identified by virtue of being stakeholders as being invested in the school. So I don't believe the 21st is even structured for it. So I would say no.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, because I feel like that maybe wasn't the impression that they were given when they were given this to make comment on, I don't know, that's just what it sounded like from the gentleman here.
I totally concur with that. Yeah. I feel like the distribution, particularly to that group, was very awkward because as the process unfolded and we got new information, we were in it was a quick turnaround. Mm-hmm. So I totally agree with that. And I think that for those of us who have been working on this forever, we pivot really fast, mm-hmm. but they weren't expecting it. And it was, that was the purpose for including them as one of the focus groups. So we'll work through that when we meet with them on the 16th, and then we're going to plan for the 21st, and I think that we'll be focusing on the neighborhood traffic management plan.
Can I clarify something? Just the Ed Association didn't give like a formal vote recommendation, right? You just reached out to various members of the Ed Association, and they gave back. They didn't take a vote as a full board, and the classified didn't take a vote so it was looking at individuals within different boxes.
That's right. So yes, that's right. So this was, we didn't ask for people to vote or just here's an opportunity for you to give an opinion, and you're part of a group that has been identified as being a perspective that we wanted to get. So all of the teachers didn't vote on this. They had their teacher leaders who talked about it and then went back to their grade level teams, and I heard from them as grade level teams. So there was, some volume there. The kids we had, they were working in teams, and I think there's like 30 kids in that class, so 30 kids, but no, there was no vote. It was just kind of capacity. And with the parents, there's crossover between leaders in those groups and parents who are very involved. And with the parents, they sent their opinion in, and they also named themselves. So that was nice to see how many parents are we talking about, I thought that would really help to quantify it. And but there was no voting or anything formal. It was just trying to open that door.
Thanks.
Okay. So are we comfortable moving option 4 forward?
I'm
Good?
comfortable with
Good.
that.
All right. Let's get to it. Option 4. Thank you.
Got it.
Thank you. All right, moving on then. With the next superintendent report and board discussion, R-10-1920, on the Measure S Facilities Program update. We will open, we'll have the update and then we'll have any public comments on this, as well as the additional superintendent report and board discussions as well. So, Superintendent or Ms. Montalvo?
I'll go ahead and do it. This will be very quick. Just to update you, over at North, we had the construction company has conducted and concluded their home inspections of the neighboring properties that are adjacent to the project. And I want to say there were 10 properties in question. We had a terrific meeting with the city Public Works, the city inspector, the construction company, and Leanne and myself, just to kick off our pre-construction, talk about what their expectations are, what our expectations are. It was great, and there's been an increase in communication since then. I think everybody got to know each other, and so I was really, really pleased with that. I want to thank the city for being very responsive when we've asked them for, permits or turnaround. They've been extremely, extremely helpful, particularly Leanne. I also want to say that the stakeholder MOU group, we did meet at one time, and they provided us with a list of ideas and thoughts that they had that they thought would help prepare them for the process. And so Leanne and I and the consultant have been working on getting materials back out to them, and some more materials are coming. There's going to be an internal meeting on the 16th, but a public meeting on the 21st. So we'll be starting to push out the communication from the city and the school district jointly. And with regards to View, we are in the process of doing value engineering up at View. We are struggling with some delta in the increase in costs from grading and earthwork and things that have, the inflation rate has been significant over the past few years while we've been delayed. So looking at that and trying to see what we can do to bring those numbers down. And we did our bond sale, so that's just about it for Measure S, unless you have any questions or things in particular you want more information on.
Before we have any questions and comments from the board, if there are any, is there any public comment on this item? All right, seeing none. Are there any comments, questions from the board? Any? Jen?
I just want to thank you and the construction team for just being really great at putting out information weekly, and how I personally think that's really appreciated. So good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steven?
I was just going to say, so go on the website. It's all loaded on there. And we'll keep pushing it out. And the neighbors have been really great as well. They've been communicating back and forth. So
that's great. I'm just curious, next step, or sort of the finer details, if you know, and coming from the city on those particular meetings, like the formats of them, where their location, times of them. Do we expect those things to be locked in the next few days? You mentioned like the meetings on the 16th and the 21st.
Well, the 16th is going to be just the stakeholder
right,
group.
So we don't.
But the community meeting will be at the Valley NPR.
At
7 o'clock on October 21st.
Thank you.
That makes me leave. Yeah, and we just finalized that today.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Barb?
Nothing. I have nothing. Thank you.
All right. I have nothing either. So we will close that one, and we will move on to the next superintendent report and board discussion, R-11-1920, on the update on technology infrastructure upgrades. Gentlemen, thank you for your patience.
While they're getting prepared, that's going to be in our update, a next step, getting Simon and Amit hooked up with the consultants for North, so that they can start planning their own transition to start to connect everybody together for the future.
All right. How's everyone doing?
Good evening.
Hello. Hello. Let's get
Hello.
a little bit awake here. Once again, introduction, Simon Duran. We met briefly before. We do see a new face here, then back in April. I am the Network Systems Administrator here at Hermosa Beach. And
I'm Amit Mambahal. I'm the Systems Technician.
All right, fantastic. We could jump right into it. We want to make it pretty quick. I know we got a time limit. Try and keep it under 10 minutes. Okay, so hello again. So on April 10th, we proposed a big plan to bring HBCSD's infrastructure, or just technology, into the 21st century. You shared our vision. You gave us the money. And now it's time to see what we did with it. It's been a long summer, definitely, for the both of us. You could probably see it a little bit. But definitely, you're about to see some amazing stuff, hopefully. All right.
So basically, where did the money go? The HBCSD IT department was tasked with analyzing the state of the current environment and to make recommendations to favor the district's best interest. This includes, but not limited to, device infrastructure, network infrastructure, classroom standardization, system redundancy, and compliance for SIPA, COPA, and FERPA.
All right.
So essentially, this chart here that you're seeing, it's the same exact chart that we proposed to you back in April. So these are the check marks are essentially the things that we've gotten done. So classroom projectors are installed. Classroom document cameras are fully installed as well. Classroom Chromebooks, it's still in the works. We kind of ran out of money at the same time. There was some hiccups during the summertime, but we're working diligently with Paula to see what we can do to get that rolling. And then onto desktop computers and monitors for the office admins that was configured and rolled out to them. Replacement iPads. They're going to be Chromebook tablets. Again, we're trying to see what we can do money-wise to see what we can get for them. And then desktop monitors and laptops for the IT department. Thank you guys. That was great tools to basically get us through the summer and continuing. And then building printers, that's going to be in progress. We're essentially waiting for Christmas break to roll that out. We just didn't have enough time over the summer to get to that.
All right, and then so what we promised for network. So for network infrastructure, that was going to be our big thing we were focusing on, basically building a good foundation for what we need to add Chromebooks to become a one-to-one. You know, we have North School inbound. We have all these projects. We can't have North School or View, when done with completion, inherit our old network as like a cancer. It needs to be something that literally it was not good to rebuild something like that. But we got it up to our standards, best practices, and definitely something that we can just continuously add on to. That was part of the proposed agreement, is that we weren't just spending frivolously to just get us by until then. So basically what we upgraded, so the Cisco firewall, old firewall, that was the board item we had passed the same day, the Palo Alto networks. So basically that system now controls all of our content filtering and security for our entire district. We updated our ESXi master server, which is basically what we hold all of our files on. So that's superintendent files all the way to managing student credentials. We have made that system redundant, so we can have a situation where we lose one unit and we're still fully operational, actually up to 2 units. So it's just building system redundancy. Switches and access points, I had brushed up on E-rate, so I want to try and get us categorized for E-rate. That's where we could save potential of 40% on entire purchases, and E-rate is also hopefully going to apply to North School as well. Basically, we had to get ourselves SIPA compliant. We were not compliant with any of the California state standards when it came to administration of digital curriculum. Yes, yes, and child internet protection, privacy. We did not adhere to any of those. Now we do. We can confidently say that we would survive any audit report, anything like that, no problem. So we didn't run out of money. We just haven't had time to build the structure because E-rate is a 1-year-long process. Paula can brief you a little bit on it, but it has a lot of moving pieces, especially with amongst construction and everything on top of that. It's quite an endeavor, but it is guaranteed big savings. So backup server, same thing. Refresh that to where we have a redundant system. Licensing, there was a point made that Are we going to have to pay licensing over and over again over the years? Are we going to have to need another $250,000 next year to keep all the systems we put in place? We made sure a large majority of our systems are all either perpetual licenses, so one time we own it, and or we did 3 to 5 year contracts across the board. That way we can have years of time to re-strategize our next budget. And then also new server racks. Thank you. We need to put all of that new equipment, that expensive stuff, into a new enclosure to protect our investment. Also something we can add on to. So our next slide.
Device infrastructure, basically we finalized the teacher laptop refresh back up at View. They were the last piece to the puzzle. So all the teachers there have brand new laptops, so they're good to go. The IT department and office admin upgrades are good as well. There are some printers bought for the district. One went to the art room and the other went to level 1 at district office. And then lastly, the department resources and supplies. This is essentially to get the teachers through the year, i.e. batteries, Red Cat microphones, such of that. So we came in at a total of $70,132.30.
And mind you that you should have been given a breakdown of basically each of the line items that we have should be in that report. So if you have any questions or concerns on what we spent, anything like that, everything on that report should be justified. And then next we have network infrastructure, so network racks, cabling, just basically what we went over, licensing, our next generation firewall, which should be good for generations to come, and then also our ISP upgrade. That was another thing we handed on top of upgrading the entire infrastructure. We got a boost in speed from our ISP through E-rate category 1, where we saved a lot of money, basically allowing us to have a fully fledged enterprise network at this time. We are no longer on a home network. This is a monster of an environment here. And the grand total on everything that we spent, we were able to come in at $90,070.08.
So classroom standardization, projectors and document cameras, like I stated, is all throughout the whole district right now. That came in at $39,069.15, as well as cabling for View Campus. So we had to rerun HDMI cables in order for the laptops that we bought to be compatible with the projectors. So that came in at $474. So that total for that standardization process was $39,543.50. However, restricted budget, you're going to see there, that's basically money that's left in the account in the one-time money. That's for what Simon was talking about with E-rate for switches and network infrastructure. So that restricted value is for when E-rate category 2 comes in, we can be able to spend that money for that.
That way, so E-rate, we file E-rate in the next couple months, and we file our final paperwork in sometime late in November? In late November. So this is a very long, lengthy process where we're going to have to qualify for bids, and then we need to make sure we just have money allocated for when the bids come through, we can give them money. We're not simply, this money is not isn't sitting here gaining interest, certainly, but it's just, it's basically already spent. So we were very tight, down to the dollar within our budget. All right. Any questions so far? Nope. Fantastic. Okay. All right.
So where do we even start with the money that was given to us? So essentially, the week after funding was approved, we began to mock up some designs to test the equipment before installation, essentially. So basically, we're just going to walk you through some pictures of our mock-up phase of what that looked like. So essentially, this was the first day when the racks came in, nice and prepackaged for us. We basically just began straight ahead. You can see we got the Palo Alto when we first got that in. We started installing that as well. So yeah, just a few pictures there.
Okay. So then next was our deployment. So last day of school arrives. We started purchasing equipment the second our budget was passed. We knew that we did not have a huge time frame, 10 weeks to be exact, to do all of this. We started by cleaning out the old hardware in the MDF room. Our main task here was to update the data center, the heart of our entire network. That is all at the MDF, so our main distribution framework. It's in a back office at Valley Campus. We started out by cleaning out old hardware, removing the cabling. We actually had help from Paula. Maintenance team over the summer was nice enough to help us patch the floors, patch holes in the walls, and clean the floors. You want to have a clean environment so we don't have long-term device degradation. And then, like I said, this was all made to create a strong foundation for us. And then here are a few pictures of our experience. Try and go a little quick through here. So that's what it looked like before. Like, just keep that in mind. It was a mess. There were loose cables everywhere. It was not good, poor airflow, not designed. So progress, we painted the walls, cleared out all the excess cabling, and then more progress towards the end. You can always go into it in detail, and that's what it looks like afterwards. Thousands of cables. I mean, it was very extensive.
Oh, yeah.
We had a couple sleepless nights, maybe more than a couple. But we had a deadline that we needed to meet, and we wanted to make something that shows like who we are as an IT department, as well as something that reflects on what we're capable of. I mean, this is stuff that should have been done years ago, but we're going to make sure we get it done as fast as we can.
Onto classroom standardization. So you see in that leftmost hand picture, that's the document camera that we purchased for all classrooms in the district. That second picture there is the projector. It's the X39 Power Elite. That's also in all the classrooms in the district. And then that third screen that's projecting, that's the software that makes the compatibility between the teacher laptops, the document cameras, and the projector to talk to each other and basically work simultaneously.
Fantastic.
And then onto people affected. So with that money that you guys gave us, we were able to touch all of these within our organization. It goes from students, teachers and staff, administrators, and even to you guys. So
we wanted to make sure that all stakeholders were going to be affected by the investment that you gave us. We weren't just trying to benefit ourselves or even the student. We were trying to keep that as broad as we possibly could. And then any questions on that so far? We're all good? But wait, there's more. So there's still stuff, believe it or not. So I know we're going a little over. But
You're doing
I'm
awesome.
trying to speed it up a little bit.
You're doing great.
All right, thank you. So wait, there's more. So basically, this is what we have in the pipeline. Wireless projection. We're fully capable of wireless projecting, so we're going to try and eliminate as many wires as we can in the classroom, especially on our kindergarten levels. That's a big problem. Cables, kids, no bueno. IT department website. Our IT department website. We thank you with the help of Jonathan. My gosh, round of applause for him. He pulled a miracle out. He was emailing me at 1 a.m. the other day saying, I finally got the department website up and running. We have IT resources available to parents, teachers, staff, anybody who comes onto our campus. It's all there. Basically, we were running into issues where for guest Wi-Fi connections, anything like that, all of our documentation information should all be listed on there. And, of course, some great shots of me in mid suits.
Of course.
Of course. All right, and then also installing configuring block printers is what we plan to bust out in the Christmas time, and fixing Chromebooks, configuring no Chromebooks for deployment. That's basically repairing some of our old inventory, basically to make what we have last as long as possible. Applying policies, security patches, and then also new security policies that we've never seen before. Content filtering on a whole different level, allowing teachers to browse their content with students having a completely separate pipe where they access their content. It's how a lot of districts are doing their information this way, just so teachers can use teacher teach teacher, more online resources that necessarily students shouldn't have access to. And then also inventory tracking. So we introduced this to make sure that we can protect our investments by knowing where they always are. Before, it was just the asset tag in a spreadsheet that floated around the office every now and again. We didn't like that. We integrated with our system, with our ticket system that we also implemented, to make sure that we can track devices on a network level. We can always know when they're connected to our system by serial number, asset tag, and as well as assigned to a certain employee. We have a checkout list that we implemented every year. Teachers will give us a signed signature, so if anything happens to that device, there is someone behind it accountable. These are expensive laptops, as board member McCall mentioned in April. They're $1,300, $1,400, some of them are $1,600 a piece. They are not toys. Next is reports in real time. This is just a demonstration of what the information I can offer to you now with the new equipment that we've implemented. We can manage our data traffic and analyze on a whole different scale. We can show basically who uses a lot of traffic, where it goes. Basically security vulnerabilities that you would never be able to see before. On the next slide as well, reports continued, you can actually see who our top users are. Yeah, no problem. Who our top users are, where our data is going. I mean, you would never know any of this. I mean, we're sending 600 megabytes to Sweden. Why? Like, why? So we just need to make sure that we're protecting our students on a whole different level. We all know how volatile the internet can be. And then also, I would like you to take a look on the very right-hand side. You can see our URL filtering. So we can filter on a whole different level. We're filtering games, malware, alcohol and tobacco content, search engines. We filter through Google. We make sure kids cannot look up certain things through the through Google search engine. It's capable of a lot of good, but a lot of bad as well. And then also weapons, abuse, drugs, all, mind you, using 3% of the capacity of the device that we bought. So we have expandability, no problem. And then also, reports continue, just a fun map to look. So the circle in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, that's cloud-based data, so that's usually coming from data centers. But also you'll see arrows going to China, Russia. Those are connections that need to be monitored. We don't know who's attacking us, when, and where. And then also reports from ticketing system. So every cabinet meeting, twice a month, we give our cabinet team basically a report analysis of what is happening within our ticket system. This is, once again, transparency can help spot issues within departments or tasks that aren't being completed in a timely manner. This way, we can give full transparency to our administration of knowing things that they would never know. This way, they can see how many tickets were being completed, how many tickets weren't, and so on and so forth. And this is expandable to not only maintenance and technology, but we can add other departments as well in the future.
So essentially preparing for the future, what are we thinking about? So the IT department is grateful for the money that we received. However, as we all know, technology is growing exponentially. So how do we keep up with it? If we don't keep up with it, we're basically going to find ourselves back where we started back in April. So therefore, having a line item for tech should be considered and planned for, essentially. So continuation, digital curriculum is just like technology. It's exponentially growing. So how do we basically coexist with that? What are your expectations for our technology department to upkeep the growing curriculum? Our network infrastructure can handle basically anything we give it. However, the adoption of this curriculum, it can handle it. Is just to what extent? However, we will need to change out our 15-plus-year-old switches, as we stated, and hopefully through category of E-rate we can do so.
Fantastic. Okay, and then, so yeah, once again, just brushing up on that, just a quick summarization. Yeah, the 15-year-old switches are a big problem. That's going to be our main focus that we look at. You will see more in detail on the report we gave you, because I know we are way over our time limit. However, with E-rate, we need to be SIPA compliant, and I can't mention that more. We are now compliant with dozens of state standards, which make us eligible for discounts, grants depending on when that happens, and then other sources of income. Also, let's see. Yeah, and then also remember, we had to take the firewall and the servers out of our budget to consider for E-rate. We did have to spend a big chunk of our cash just to get us there. That's where kind of our budget fell through some ways, came through on others. It's a lot to do with only $250,000 if you think about it, starting from scratch. Because basically me and him single-handedly built everything. And then also we did take advantage of E-rate Category 1, which I encourage everyone to take a look at that documentation and just see the savings we received from E-rate Category 1. And then implementation, so future list, what needs to be done. Basically, quick summarization of what I went through. Switches, access points for the new school to be compatible. We need to make sure all of these things are in synchronization on top of the scheduling and everything else. And then also software to monitor our network, more things in the pipeline. And then implementation of a line item will help us all avoid this from happening again. Just the overall delay, that way, by having a line item, it will allow the district to basically always be
on top of our game, essentially.
So no delays.
Yeah, never falling back.
And then, so wrap up, basically. Okay.
Essentially, the IT department wants to continue to support HBCSD with all their endeavors, including but not limited to teaching curriculum, allowing our students to have the tools needed for them, and allowing our students to grow with technology, always having the newest technology they can at hand, so they know what's out there. If you guys let us know how, we'll definitely show you guys that the results are there. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry for going over our time limit.
It's okay. Before we get to questions, comments, public comment, we are past 10 o'clock. Is there a motion to extend the meeting?
I make a motion to extend the meeting, Doug, by 45 minutes.
Thank you, Jen. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Barb. All in favor?
Aye.
Before we get to the board comments, is there any public comments on the IT presentation? Seeing none, we will close public comments.
Huge turnout.
Formality here. Are there questions, comments from the board? Barb?
I'm just in awe of what you guys know, how smart you are. And I have 2 daughters who are currently in college, but they'll be home over the summer. So I'd like to introduce you.
All right, now they're blushing.
All right. Any other questions?
All right, Steven, let's go. Questions. Something.
Thank you so much.
Well done. Spectacular. And also, just, the passion that goes into doing this and the finer details and being up late at night. I mean, all around the room, I know there's a lot of effort that goes into putting all this together. So thank you sincerely. I also appreciate the future forward thinking. I think that's important. Love to see you think through what that roadmap is and help us understand what is sort of at varying levels of necessary, what up to sort of might be what are other things that we may want to do that are aligned with priorities and in conjunction. I would love to I'm pretty sure you're both on the transformation committee, but I just want to make sure. Yeah. So make sure you're in lockstep with things because we need to sort of keep that technology bent going. Spectacular in 10 weeks. Incredible. Well done. You deserve that presentation. I don't know if this is me sort of latching on to looking, not to get worried about North Korea and other things, but when kids search for certain things, how quickly can you provide a flag? Things like weapons and stuff like that is are a concern.
Immediately. So we can build an email notification system that can basically send out notifications to site administrators of where that device looked up that search. Right now, we are still in the stages. We had to smack everything together as fast as we could in 10 weeks. We do plan on breaking into that, but I completely agree, yes.
Again, that's the level that I'm sure you're going to get to. So that was just one thing that flagged for me. And I also have a question, maybe this is more to Pat, though, the tech plan in terms of development of that. Just what our timing is with that and the requirements with the state.
Yeah, so there are requirements from the state. They have a template they've put out, so we'll follow that. And we'll pull together a side committee and make that work separate. It's a little bit more arduous than being the thinkers of a transformation. Yeah, so we'll pull out and we'll ask the guys to participate in that and get representatives and put that together this year.
Right.
We'll bring it to you.
Okay, thank you.
Good. All right, Jen?
Yeah, you guys killed it for this late at night. You just brought the energy. We are super pumped about this technology plan, so it has not gone unnoticed. And your hard work in putting this together with everybody else here is really appreciated. You're super fun to. Yeah, we're all like, yeah, let's do technology. What else are we gonna do? What other switch can we buy? I did, on Stephen's note about safety, there was a mental health question too. I think I think you potentially can flag mental health sites that kids are looking at and lead those to administrators as well. And I think that might be a really great service that can provide. Tech plan was on my list. And the Chromebooks, I just noticed like the bigger things. Tell me again about how long does the E-rate take? Is it kind of like applying for like organic certification? You kind of have to apply for this E-rate and then you get it?
So it's a year-long process. So we've started in September. Our consultants started asking me for data the first day school started, I got the email. So Simon and I have had a WebEx conference with him so far, so he's given us some directives of some information gathering that we need to do before we can move forward. We're trying to incorporate North School into our thinking to get them online with an ISP. So there's a lot of layers to this, and then once that the document is prepared, it will go out for requests for proposals in January.
So does that mean that we aren't going to apply to get like Chromebooks or those one-on-one devices?
Yeah, so Chromebooks don't fall under E-rate.
Okay.
So that's where we could take the cost savings from E-rate and apply that to Chromebooks, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
That's where we've kind of held our budget a little bit, because we don't really know what the bid's going to be for the switches and access points until we make the bid. But you can't make the bid until you have money in your bank account.
Got it. That was my question. Just like, when does that process happen? Doesn't mean we're not doing something. It just means we're kind of applying.
Correct.
Thank you. Maggie?
Thank you.
I'd love to echo Stephen and Jen's comments and their concerns around the health and wellness and safety. And then the other thing that's been on my mind, and I love the reporting that we can do, but there's been, not to put this out in the universe, but ransoming for public entities. So like the city of Baltimore, over in August, it was the public school district of Lyon, Nevada, where they just held ransom the district. So like that's top of mind, since one, we don't have money, and two, we need access to all of our data on an everyday basis. So I don't know, I think like we can get insurance coverage for some of those things, but I do think like if our system isn't operating at 100,000% right now, like are there other things that we need to do to make sure that we are really well covered by this kind of stuff?
We do have coverage from our from ASKIP, and it's quite extensive. So I can put that in a Friday update, so you know how much our coverage is. But we do have a good umbrella. But your point is well taken, and it's not a big conversation among superintendents right now. I don't think, maybe we're just trying to wish it away. Mm-hmm. But certainly municipalities are being hit with a more frequent. On a more frequent basis.
All right. I'm good. Thank you, guys.
Well done. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Our next superintendent report and board discussion, R-12-1920, on accountability, California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress, CASP results. Ms. Taylor.
I have 20 more years on those guys, so I'm going to try to bring my energy, people. Okay, let's talk 20 more years. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about state testing, accountability, and student achievement in the district.
There we go.
All right. Okay, so just a little bit of background information. The state holds us accountable for some state indicators, one of them being academic performance and assessment of our students. The umbrella just gives you kind of a quick overview of what is being assessed last year, 2018-19. Newly introduced last year was California Science Test, and so we're still awaiting those results, as well as California Alternate Assessment, which is given to a very small percentage of our highest needs students who cannot take the other assessment that's given. So these are state and local measures that we are reviewed on annually. So what is the purpose? So LA County Office of Ed reminds us to, when you're looking at results from state testing, that you look at them through the lens of cause and impact, and you focus on groups. You take and evaluate your programs that you're offering. You also ask some questions, reflect, and look at ways you can improve and best practice. These dials are from our performance from last year on ELA and mathematics. All students who had met or exceeded is in the center, and then those who received level 3, 2, or 1 are also represented in that circle. So I took a look at our English language arts literacy trends for 4 years, and you can look at this data in multiple ways. One of the ways that you can look at it is linear, so how far has third grade moved since the introduction of the new assessment from 2015 to 2019, and you can see just that 4-year change. They've improved by 8 percentage points. Of course, we know those are different kids each year, different cohorts of students, so you kind of take that with a grain of salt as you're looking at the trends, but it is nice to see that overall amongst those grade levels, we're seeing improvement and we're nudging in the right direction. There seems to be an outlier in 5th grade when you look at that 4-year trend linear. You can also look at cohort change. So when you're looking at cohort change, you want to focus on the top right-hand corner of the slide. So we'll take a look at 3rd grade in 2018 was 86% met or exceeded in English language arts, and in 2019, that cohort of students tested at 83% met or exceeded. So they did decline by 3 percentage points. So then as you go down through the cohort change, you can look grade 3 to 5, grade 3 to 6, and 3 to 7, and of course 4 to 8 because we didn't have data for that 4th grade cohort. So you can see quite a large improvement from the 3rd to 7th grade group. You can do the same thing with math. You can look at the linear change over 4 years, and something that I want to mention is that math, as I was starting to do the calculations and look at the numbers, I was quite impressed with how our growth is represented. An 18% change in grades 3 and 6 is tremendous. It's been a long process with math. We've introduced some new curriculum, and we've taken some new approaches with cognitive guided instruction, and we've also got a new middle school online textbook. So all of that growth is just, again, reinforces curriculum decisions that we're making. You can also look at cohort change the same way we did with language arts, and you can check to see different grade levels and their performances. Okay, this is just another way to look at our English, language arts, and math. If you're looking for trends, you can just kind of look at progress since 2015, and the direction is moving in the right direction with a few dips along the way, but you want to compare how do our students perform overall English, language arts versus math. You can take a look at it that way. I also took a look at our data based on ethnicity, met or exceeded. So I did the same kind of comparison with our ethnicity groupings for both language arts and math. And you can see somewhere in that chart, the orange line is the overall. So that overall just kind of continues through all of the charts so you can see a measurement or a baseline. Okay. Then I took a look at gender. So I, of course, wanted to just take a quick look in there and see how our male and female students are performing, in language arts and math, and you can see the trend lines there as well. Some years better than others, and it looks like in math trending up, except maybe a little dip last year. I also took a look at economically impacted students. I wanted to see what we have been doing for that particular group of students, and I was impressed to see, again, large 4-year change increases of 22% and 21%. That's something that I think should be noted, that's very, very important. Students with disabilities also looked at met or exceeded. Now remember, I did mention that there's a California alternate assessment for students who are unable to take this standardized assessment. So we are asking that our students with disabilities attempt and take this assessment. So that California alternative is for less than 3% of our students. Actually, probably less than 10 of our students take that assessment. So results, it's very difficult to report out on results because it's such a small subgroup of students. So our goal is that everybody opts in and participates and tries so we can continue to grow those numbers. So again, just a quick reminder, general direction, statewide assessments help with goal setting for programs, focusing, looking at your data, reflecting on your practice, grade level, site-wise, and classroom. It creates a baseline for us to begin to make markers for our LCAP, and it also is an indicator on the California dashboard. So what are some things that we do with this information? The school site will complete an analysis. They'll look at the LCAP goals with all of their stakeholder groups. All of the academic goals are tied to specific LCAP goals called out in our plan. We take a look at school site council. DLAC is for English language learners or emerging bilinguals, if you will. We also talk to our special education team, our parent-teacher organization, Ed Foundation, our cabinet level teams, and grade level representatives to talk about the work that we're doing. Grade levels have time built out in their schedule. Every Wednesday, there's a different designation of what they're working on, and grade levels have been creating an analysis and looking at their practice over what are the trends that they're seeing. They're getting much more detailed data than what I'm sharing with you today. They can look at performance bands comparing last year to this year. And then more specifically this year, we also launched out to our classroom teachers that they received a report on previous students' performance and the bands. And then they also received a list of students, what they were coming into with their class. So it was really nice to be able to give that to our students this year. That was something that we were not able to do in years prior, and so it really took a great team. And our data tech, Vicki, I should give a little shout out to her. Yay, Vicki, not watching right now, but I'll let her know tomorrow that information in the hands of a teacher is so powerful. To know information about the students before they're walking into the classroom, to start with that rather than to try to figure it out within the first few weeks of school is really powerful. So again, all of these goals are tied both to our LCAP Goal 1, which is academics, and LCAP Goal 2, engagement, and 3, wellness. Okay. So we know that data gives us an opportunity for continuous improvement, and you have to partner that with collective efficacy. So collective efficacy, in order to measure that, you have to look at our local indicators. So let's talk about what the local indicators are that we're going to be measured on. So there are 8 priorities, areas that are tied to the LCFF funding. And so the state indicator I just talked about for academics is under the middle column. But the local indicators are also a way for us to measure our progress. So we're going to speak a little bit about those local indicators tonight. So the California dashboard is a separate system that allows us to report out on what we locally are collecting as information. The first priority is basic services, and Hermosa has met those. We recruit and develop and retain highly qualified teachers. We have access to curriculum-aligned instructional materials, and we also complete the facilities inspection toolkit each year, and all students are marked in good repair status. Okay, this information is also contained in the SARC reports that the principals give every year, which is also in previous years. So, of course, the dashboard is reporting on data from the 18-19 school year, not current. So the second priority is implementation of state academic standards. So again, we're looking at whether or not the district is meeting our academic frameworks for English language arts, English language development, mathematics, NGSS, social studies, and history and health education. And you can use either a narrative or a reflection tool, and so our staff has rated our progress. Our stakeholder groups have also participated in those. And are our policies in line with our current state standards? Are we meeting those? And yes, we are. Priority 3, parent and family engagement. This is another area that's been met. So there are 3 buckets in which we're measured. How do we build relationships between the school staff and families? How do we build partnerships for student outcomes? And then also seeking input for decision making. So I just gave some examples of areas that are of focus for last year and also moving forward. What is really reassuring to me is I just don't know how we always seem to be about 1 or 2 years ahead of what's coming. I hope we can continue to do that, but creating welcoming environments is something that is really on the forefront, but I feel like we've been talking about that for a year, so it's exciting to know that we're kind of on that cutting edge of what's coming, and understanding bias and cultural proficiency. Our commitment to working with Dr. Early and bringing that to the forefront has really helped us kind of be ahead of the game, so I think that's something that should be called out for us as well. I also believe that the partnerships that our district has leveraged with Beach Cities Health District, South Bay Families Connected, our speaker series, our parent-teacher organization, our Ed Foundation, our local industry partners, I think we have done a great job leveraging those relationships to get the outcomes that we need. The next priority is school climate. And so, again, this is measured through the Healthy Kids Survey, Parent Survey, Staff Survey, Student Surveys. I absolutely was thrilled that the startership class came up here with a survey. I was like, I gotta get my hands on that data. I gotta get my hands on that data and see if I can add that to our reports. So it was great to see that they had questions, they had measurable targets, they had key takeaways. So again, sometimes we do feel a little bit over-surveyed, but I think if we narrow our questions and ask the right ones, we can get some really valuable information. So again, connectedness has been something that we've been focusing on for years. It's nice to see that that terminology is coming forward through the California dashboard. And priority 7, access to broad courses of study. This is, of course, we want to make sure that we are creating pathways of success for our students. We want to make sure that we are continuously communicating with the high schools so that we have course options for our students. We want to identify if there's bridges or barriers. So we're looking at K through 6, first grade through 6th grade, and 7-8. What decisions are we making that may impact students as they further and thrive through life, right? So we want to make sure that we have a broad course of study available for our students. And of course, this also connects to having teachers who are qualified to be able to teach those courses. And so that's a measure through CalPADS data and our middle school scheduling. So, very exciting. The California dashboard actually has an app. So that's new. But they also have a dashboard navigator, which is a 3-dimensional tool, which has not been fully loaded with new information. But that blue is actually a link. So I don't know if you have a digital copy of the PowerPoint, but you can link through to the dashboard navigator, and you would be able to see, now data's not loaded yet because they're preparing for the launch, which we're expecting it to be live in December. But you can click on it now and see, and Hermosa will come right up, and you can see where our schools are located. And on the top, you can search by different criteria of what you're looking for. And then you'd also be able to expand out and look at neighboring districts or any school district within the state. The CASP system is also creating a tool where you can start to create comparisons amongst districts that are similar to yours or very different depending on what you're looking for. I just caution us when we start to look and compare ourselves, because I know oftentimes people are asking me, well, where do we lie in comparison to our neighbors to the right and left, north and south? And I say just be cautious with when you're looking at that data, because it also includes high school data. And so if you want to, it would really depend on what you're looking for to see what the comparison is. But again, when we compare ourselves against ourselves, we are nudging in the right direction. We're making progress. We're looking at all our subgroups and categories of students, and we're going to continue to do the good work. So, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions, comments? Maggie, start with you.
Do you have a question? I do. Did something happen specifically in 2017 with ELA? Was there new curriculum or something that year?
So let's go back to 2017. Is there a particular grade you're looking
No,
at?
if you go straight down the list, and then it's most pronounced with like the gender, but there's a dip across 2017 in all the grades. So I was just curious if we did something different that year.
Is that math or language arts specific?
In ELA,
okay.
Literacy.
I can't remember.
I don't remember if we did anything different across the district, or if the test if it beta tested something
I
different.
do feel like there was some, I'd have to go back and look, but I don't know if there was some sort of a change in the test format, but I will go back and I will look to see if I can
just curious
see if I can find anything.
And then the second thing, this is such a great presentation, Kim. Thank you so much for digging into this and creating the narrative and helping inform all the other tools. Were there any pullouts off of the ELL population?
So Okay, so the ELL population, that information is still embargoed and they're releasing it, but we have to remember when we have a small cohort of students, sometimes I can't get the same data as I can get for the larger groups. So when that becomes available, I can also do a presentation on that.
Because that's part of our LCAP goal one, right?
Absolutely,
Like, double down.
absolutely. And we have, this year we have about 25 students, and last year I'm not sure what that number was, but it's a
It's
very
22, yeah.
yeah, 22. But again, it's important to look at and consider and make decisions around that.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay. Jen, any comments, questions?
No, yes, I echo Maggie's sentiment. It's very like cohesive, so it feels like you really can look at it, and I love looking at the trends like kind of diagonally, so it's really helpful because I feel like you really can see how those groups have grown. And I mean, it's very impressive to see so many positives, the positive numbers at the end. I mean, that's super impressive because it's really hard to move a band of students. And then I would just, again, echo probably what Maggie was saying here about looking at our Latino population here and what that kind of looks like, what we're doing to support those, those particular students. And just, I'm curious how I would just love to just talk more about it at some point, what our plan is with the teachers to go through these, 20% in ELA and 25% in math that aren't at the standards met, and like I know we're due intervention and kind of what our plan is, because when we do the same, we have repeated ourselves year after year after year. It's pretty consistent data. So maybe is that working? Is that intervention working? And
so what I can share with you is I do have 2 charts that focus on the not met and the 4-year trend lines and also the cohort data. I didn't put it in this presentation. I wanted to focus on, the positives, but I can definitely share that so you can just get a feel for that. It's something that the administrative team and myself and the cabinet team have talked about, is really digging into intervention. It feels like we need to really look at what we're offering. And so I think we're feeling the same way maybe that you're speaking, but let me share that data with you to share with them in ELA and math, and then you can see where we're looking to make some changes.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I mean, this is like compliments all around because, gosh, it is hard to stay consistent with your data year after year after year. So it is, that's
but
amazing.
There's room for improvement.
Yeah, I mean, that's the exciting part.
Yeah.
Thank you. Stephen?
Exceptional. Well done. Brilliant. Just curious, this is grade 3 and above, but I'm just curious, do we do lower grade in our own assessments?
So we would have like what we would consider local benchmarks or assessments that our younger students would be taking, but it's not for the state.
Right, but can we see that data?
I do not have access to that.
Oh, okay.
So that would be something at a site level. So I don't know.
I'm just curious, to Jen's point, I'd love to see, even if it's an appendix, if we've got an admin person to be able to help with that, not if there's not extra heavy lifting, but just to see a complete picture. This is great because it's state and what have you, but it's curious to see, particularly when we implement things on a younger level, to see how it's coming through and that sort of thing. So just a complete picture.
You might see that through the teachers use Renaissance for STAR math and STAR reading. Those are just kind of local indicators that we use as benchmark assessments to see where their performance are. Or your teachers might be using Fontes and Pinnell running records to give you a letter associated with their reading level. And so it just depends on what you're really looking for to measure progress.
I'm just curious of the picture of the both.
I don't have a tool to capture all of that data at this point.
Got it. Okay. And the other thing was, you mentioned about the other end of the spectrum and sending them off and enabling them with the right programs and whatever else. Curious how we sync with our friends at Redondo Union and Miracosta to enable that.
I'm not sure I understand.
Like, do we go visit? How do we set them up for success when they leave our district in terms of going to the right? So we've got the right programming feeding into them. So you mentioned that.
He's saying, like, are they successful in high school?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The pathways.
So on the pathways,
Thank
I was
you.
like, It is 10:30. Okay. So what we do, an example is when we redesigned or looked at our math pathways. That's one example of working with the high schools to make sure that our students are set up for success for when they get into the high schools. High schools have open access to courses, which means a student can opt in to a course even if they may not have followed a particular pathway. So we just try to make sure that we have a wide range of offerings so that we're not a barrier to students being able to opt into classes when they get at the high school level.
Awesome. Thank you.
Does that?
That's it.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
And I have nothing, but thank you very much for all your work.
You're welcome.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. No, thank you.
Can I just, would this be a way to maybe answer Stephen's question? In 2015, third grade was at 65%, but if you go to 16, 17, 18, and 19, you're really high, you're in the 80s. And to me, that's an indication that when you're in kinder, first, and second grade, you are actually performing very well as students, because to come in and then take the test and get 89% of your third graders to score it. So I'm not sure you need to spend staff time to go look at all the data.
Good.
That'd be how I might answer that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the next superintendent report and board discussion, R-13-1920 on Senate Bill 419, discontinued suspension defiance. Ms. Rockwell.
Ms. Rockwell.
All right.
Easy.
Who's ready?
There
we go.
I think the exciting thing about this is it's pretty short.
That's a winner.
So this is just going to tell you a little bit about what Senate Bill 419 is and how it impacts us here in Hermosa. So Senate Bill 419 amends Section 48900 of the Education Code, which relates to pupil discipline. And it is a statewide ban on a particular portion of that code, which is lettered K1, which is called willful defiance suspensions. So it bans suspensions based on this code, where a student who's disrupting activities would be suspended. So a little bit about 48900. These are all of the portions of 48900 which say that a student is not suspended or expelled unless they have committed one of these infractions. And K is one of those infractions, which is willful defiance. And the reasoning behind banning it is that, first, suspensions cost student learning. So we don't want to hinder their academic success by unnecessarily suspending. And Section K would allow for suspensions for things like chewing gum and refusing to not chew gum. And so there was a lot of misuse of it. So there's also just a general cultural shift between from moving from punitive to more positive interventions. And K it was not felt that this fell into the positive interventions strategy. So what it looked like before is students who disrupted school activities or willfully defied authority could be suspended under this, under K, unless they were in grades K through 3. So anybody above the third grade could be suspended for willful defiance. A district had to show, in order to suspend under this, they had to show corrective action, and they had to pair it with a more egregious infraction. So something that would fall under another letter in that, in 48900. What SB 419 does is say, as starting July 1st, 2020, K through 5 students are not to be suspended under K at all, even with showing corrective action or pairing it with another letter under 48900. And K through 12 students are not to be expelled, and that goes on into perpetuity. That's permanent. It also, with SB 419, says now that starting in July 2020, 6 through 8 students are also not to be suspended under K. That is only to be in effect until July 1st of 2025, unless they create a new Senate bill to continue that. So how does this affect us? With that move to be more restorative, Most districts have not been suspending under K for a very long time. So starting in 2013, LA Unified and many surrounding districts banned disruptive behavior suspension. So they haven't been using K for years for a variety of reasons. First, the cultural shift, and also a lack of resources to be able to employ those corrective actions, like access to counseling or Saturday school, academic recovery. All of those things cost money to districts. So Hermosa Beach does not, this new bill does not impact our discipline practices because we don't use suspension under K at all. So this really doesn't impact us. The only impact it would have is because our uniform discipline plan does contain the verbiage that is currently in the law. That verbiage would be taken out of the uniform discipline plan to accurately reflect the law as of July 1st. So, any questions? I told you it'd be short. Good job.
Excellent job.
Any
questions,
questions
Barb?
about?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Steven? Jen?
No, thank you.
Maggie?
Okay.
We're good.
Thank
you. Oh, I assume there was no public comment on that one. I forgot about the public comments. Sorry. All right, moving on. Right, consent. Do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar minus the one item? Superintendent, could you remind us what that item was? B-40-1920?
Yes, please.
Okay. So is there a motion to approve the consent calendar minus B-40-1920?
So moved.
Thank you, Stephen. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jen. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We'll now move on to board action. Superintendent at S-17-1920 on resolution number 5.
7 minutes.
Thank you. Colon 1920, statement of assurance on sufficiency, I can't spell, of instructional materials. Superintendent.
Thank you very much. It is recommended adoption of a resolution 05:19/20, statement of assurance on sufficiency of materials, instructional materials K through 8, fiscal year 2019-2020.
Are there any questions? Superintendent? No? We had no public comments at our public hearing. So with that, is there a motion?
I move to approve resolution, do I do S-17-1920, resolution number 05:1920, statement of assurance on sufficiency of instructional materials.
That was
Second.
good. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Barb, for the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next board action, business B-44-1920 on the proposal for archaeological and paleontological monitoring and reporting services at North School Measure S Facilities Project number 007. Ms. Montalvo.
Good evening. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the E-Corp proposal for the archaeological and paleontological monitoring and reporting services at North School campus as part of the Measure S project's facilities, number 007.
All right. Thank you, Paula. Are there any questions? Seeing none, is there a motion?
I can't see. Hold on. Sorry.
I move. Can I move?
Yeah,
Can I move?
please.
I move to approve B-44-1920 proposal for archaeological and paleontological
It's hard.
Yeah, that word. Monitoring and reporting services at North School Measure S Facilities Project 007.
Thank you, Jen. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Stephen. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Nancy, thank you for waiting us out. Yeah, at this point. Finally, our last board action, personnel P-11-1920 on accept and file the joint initial proposal from the district and the Hermosa Beach Educators Association. Superintendent.
Thank you. It's recommended that the board accept and file the initial joint proposal from the Hermosa Beach City School District and Hermosa Beach Educators Association, certificated and classified units, and for the 2019-2020 negotiations. The district held a public hearing earlier in the evening to allow for public response. which none was received. The Hermosa Beach Educators Association, HBEA agreement, certificate and classified units. There is reopener language for each side to have 2 items plus salaries and benefits. The openers for the Educator Association under classified is compensation and benefits, Article 16, with Appendix B, the classified salary schedule, and the Appendix C, benefits selection sheet. For certificated, Article 8, compensation and benefits to discuss salary and health benefits in light of state revenue and district budget. Appendix B, certificated salary schedule. Appendix C, benefit selection sheet. And Article 9, workdays and hours of employment. Appendix D, the district calendar. From the district administration for certificated, Article 12, evaluation, review of the timelines. Article 13, leaves provision to align language with legal requirements. And for classified, Article 14, vacation, discuss the scheduling of vacations. Classified, Article 8, and certificated, Article 16, compensation and benefits.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions for the superintendent? Seeing none, as the superintendent mentioned, we did have a public hearing earlier this evening, and there were no public comments. So with that, do we have a motion?
I move to approve P-11-1920, accept and file the joint initial proposal from the district and Hermosa Beach Educators Association.
Thank you, Jen. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Stephen. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. That takes us to board member roundtable. Maggie, would you like to get us started, please?
I'm good to go.
All right, Jen.
Good to go.
Just gratitude for all the hard work you're doing to get us to these places, and I know it's a lot of people to like push out information to and get responses to, and boy, master schedules are really challenging. So just all the reports tonight are really, I think, super helpful, and we have a really strong staff of people really working hard, and parents, man, these parents are working so hard too to just give us such great input. So, and fundraising and time and full-time jobs and kids. And, I know you all do, and you all stay here so late every time. So super grateful. And also don't forget to sign up for the Skechers Walk. All of you in this room, at least 5 people. Okay.
Thank you. Stephen?
Nothing. Thank you.
All right. Barb?
I'm good, thank you.
All right, I got nothing. It's too late. So with that, do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Maggie. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Barb. All in favor? Aye.